Welcome to the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen Sewer Commission meeting, September 6, 2011. Before I start, I'm going to make a little announcement. I am requesting that all cell phones and electronic devices be turned off in a mute position as not to disturb the meeting. Any member of the public also has a right to make an audio or video recording of an open session of a public meeting. A member of the public who wishes to record a meeting must first notify the chair and must comply with reasonable requirements regarding audio or video equipment established by the chair, so as not to interfere with the meeting. The chair is required to inform other attendees of such recording at the beginning of the meeting. I have been notified there are 2 people in the audience that are recording today. Mr. Clerk, we have a call. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chairman, all 5 selectmen are present, as is the Town Administrator, Mr. Andrews.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes.
On September...
excuse me. At this time, before we get into the regular agenda, Mr. Mike Snyder is going to make a statement. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank those of you whose thoughts and prayers have been with my family. I want each of you to know that being a selectman has been one of the most important things in my life. The privilege of serving Wareham means a great deal to me. But there have been personal costs, high personal costs. As has been widely reported, my family has been subject to tremendous pressures due to my involvement with the town over the past 2 years. Because of that, my children are attending a different school system out of concern for their well-being. It's one thing to deal with the actions of those who hate, but it's a different thing for our families to have to deal with it. I do want to apologize to the community for the media frenzy that has occurred. But quite frankly, I'm surprised at the level of attention that the media has placed on this matter. I was never missing, nor was I a fugitive. I missed 2 regularly scheduled meetings and an impromptu meeting that was requested by 2 members of the board who didn't show up for the meeting themselves. But the bottom line is this. My family didn't want anyone to know where they were out of concern that people would continue to seek them out once they were out of town, or that MapQuest directions would be printed to their house like they have been in the past. It was extraordinary for me to hear that an insinuation was made that it is uncommon for members of this board to go without speaking to each other in between meetings, especially when some of the selectmen know full well that I stopped taking phone calls from them in between board meetings because of a consistent violation of the open meeting laws. And you certainly don't tell people whose friends are complicit in the very reasons that you're concerned about your family's well-being, where your family's going. What I won't apologize for is putting my family's well-being ahead of the concerns of anyone else, especially the concerns of those that have become so very adept at whipping people up into a frenzy by utilizing the local media. At the end of the day, when you don't want anyone to know where your family is because of concerns that retribution will follow them where they go, you do what you have to do to make certain that no one knows where they're going or where they are. I also want you to know that it was never my intention to resign from being a selectman, which is why the town has not received a resignation. I needed some time to find a way to balance the well-being of my family with my obligations to the town. The past few weeks were supposed to be that time for me. But as we all know, that has not come to pass. And so that is why I'm explaining all this to you now. When I was elected, I did not abdicate my right or responsibility to protect the health, safety, and well-being of my family. And certainly my being a selectman does not abdicate a mother's right to protect her children. The well-being of my family comes first, as it should, and that's never going to change. That said, I've invested 2 years of my life and countless hours trying to make this town a better place to live. For far too long, this community has had a handful of politically, morally, and ethically bankrupt people that have intimidated and harassed the good people of Wareham. I have spoken out and spoken up for the residents of this town like others have in the past. And like others before me, it was my family that suffered as a result. There is something seriously wrong when children are victimized by the administration of an institution that is entrusted to grow their minds and to protect them during the school day. Why? Because their father, along with another member of this board, spoke out about serious issues that affected the safety of this town's children. Certain people think that they may have succeeded in running me out of town, but I'm not done by any means. I'm still a resident, and I still own property in Wareham. I made a commitment to this town, and I intend to do everything in my power to continue to fulfill that commitment. There is no question that my family and I face challenges ahead, but so do many other Wareham families who are suffering through the worst economic times since the Great Depression. And just like those other families, my family will fight through this together.
Excuse me. Mr. Whitehouse, no flashes, please. Well, I'll mention it now. Thank you.
And is there a media person from Wareham Week here? I'd like to tell you how devastating your newspaper has been to my family, particularly the most recent comments. How dare you allow comments on your media site that said that my 17-year-old son was left home alone and questioned my wife's ability to be a parent. You should be ashamed of yourself. Enough is enough. Stop the hatred.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Mr. Holmes will continue with the agenda. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Announcements.
Yep. On September 11th, we will have a day of remembrance on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. The parade will begin down in Onset at 5 p.m. We have the speaker coming in. The guest speaker is the Rear Admiral from the Career Admiral from the Mass Maritime Academy. There will be a procession from Lopes Field up to the Onset Park, the band shell, and it'd be a great way to show support for those folks who lost their lives on September 11th, and we will never forget what happened on that day 10 years ago. Anybody else?
Anybody with any announcements?
Mike? Mr. Chairman?
No, I don't. Citizen participation. See two hands. Start on the left.
First of all, I want to tell you that this is...
You want to identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. David Smith, Pinehurst Avenue. I want to... I'm sorry.
Was there a comment made in the audience?
Just reminding Mr. Whitehouse that there are no flashes.
Right, thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Smith.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell you that this is I'm not representing anybody but myself, that I'm trying to inform you and to hopefully get some positive feedback of another possibility of the bike path in Wareham, which we're hoping is a positive step. Serped, as you can see from the map, is very extensive in its development of the bike paths in the southeastern Massachusetts area. One of their suggestions has been, if you notice to the right where the Wareham sign is, right above that is Carver. And Route 58 is a suggestion that Serped has of making a bike path extension going all the way through Carver into Mild Standish State Park. They've already got a bike path there. Actually, it's a multi-path in Carver. Carver has also shown some interest in building a bike path of their own, and we would like to connect them. I'm going to present this to the Bike Path Committee at their next meeting, but I wanted to see if there was any interest among the Board of Selectmen in pursuing this as possibly a Phase 2 project after the one connecting with Marion. And that's all I have to say. If anybody has some questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question,
Mrs.
Mr.
Begley?
Bruce. Dave, this is in addition to?
We already have a master plan, and so this is what we call a spur, which would be, but because it would be a bike path, share the road project rather than building a completely new bike path. It's relatively inexpensive, and most of 58 is relatively wide and subject to an easy accessment to a bike path. So all they would have to do in most of the area would be to mark off the bike path route on the highway itself.
So this has not been presented to the Bike Path Committee?
This has not been presented, although we have talked about it in the past. But I'm bringing it up now because Serped is also interested in moving forward with projects that are relatively inexpensive and easy to produce.
So there's funding available for this now, in your opinion?
We haven't checked, or like I say, it hasn't been presented. It's only my suggestion, and we're going to see what we can do as far as funding is concerned. But it would be, again, probably because it's state route, paid for by funds from the state. And particularly because it would be crossing two towns. So.
When's the next Bike Path Committee are you on the agenda?
It's the third, yeah. It's the third, our meeting for the bike pass is the third, second or third, I forgot, Wednesday.
Any other questions from any other members of the board? Mr. Holmes?
Hey, David, where it picks up in green in Carver, is that existing?
I'm sorry.
In green. At the top of that,
that's
at the top of
already
that section
completed.
on
Yeah,
58,
that's already completed.
completed.
And it's already being used as a multi-purpose path. So we would be connecting with a multi-purpose path that's already already completed.
Any other questions? Kara? Mrs. Winslow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, I'm a huge fan of the bike
good.
path. But you know, the share the road always concerns me because I worry we have a lot of people come from out of town, aren't necessarily familiar. So my question is this path going to travel all of Route 58 or just that small portion that leads into the back road into Plymouth?
We would be just involved with the small portion from West
Okay.
Wareham to Carver, and then Carver would have to okay the other process.
But do you know if the plan would be to take it all the way up 58 through Main Street Carver, or would they be, I can't, for the Federal Furnace Road, I think it is, if you continue straight on 58?
I'm not sure. Right now, my understanding is Carver's trying to get their bike path along 58, along Town Hall, or along the Town Hall. Whether
Okay.
they would be willing to vary their route or not, I don't know. We haven't followed that process. Yeah,
What was
it would-
that? Right. No, I understand that, but while 58, and I guess it's really not our problem, it's Carver's problem, but it does narrow.
Right, it
And,
does.
and that would be my worry on that. But I think it's a great idea. It would be wonderful. The more room for outdoor recreation, the better.
Okay.
Any other? Mr. Snyder?
Yes, Mr. Smith, I think that this is a great way to continue, the work of the Bike Path Committee, and I know that the bike paths that are in existence throughout different towns are heavily used, and I know that they're heavily used in conjunction with other motorists. I know that there's, this looked at very carefully by the agencies that plan it out. And I look forward to hearing more and hearing what the Bike Path Committee.
Yeah, the people that I've talked to of the Bike Path Committee are enthusiastic about it, so I think that we will come up with a plan. And like I said, Serpid's also interested, so. It's
Okay,
gotta be
thank
good.
you very much for bringing the proposal to us. Serpent does have a extensive plan for the bike path coming all the way from, as you can tell by this map that you've given us, all the way across Fairhaven, Mattapoisett into Wareham, because they're working on it now. So this extension would be great to us, and I appreciate it. Like Mrs. Begley said, present it to the Bike Path Committee, let them go over it, and then they can come back to us.
Great.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there was a hand in the back. I think there was one in the back, further in the back.
Good evening, Alan Slavin, 36 Oak Street. Approximately about 4 years ago, I came before Board of Selectmen to ask if the board would be interested at that time on an intern program similar to one I put together for the Wareham Historical Society, and with the University of Mass, the Dartmouth, portion. The board, through its chair, which I think is Mr. Savageau, the board at that time, the chair was Mr. Savageau, who was here. Basically, after explaining what it was, basically asked me to go ahead and put something together, which we've done for the last 3 years.
Speak closer to the mic.
Which we've done for the last 3 years. It's really sensitive. Okay, and the interns basically have worked in the police department, clerk's office, planning, and ITS department, to name a few. Basically, the TA has supplied a list of the department needs supplied by the department heads. The process was then would match the interns to the actual jobs, and then they would basically be interviewed by the department heads and by the town administrator before they be hired. This program has been in effect, as I said, for 3 years, but it was put together by a previous board. No members here were on the board at that time 4 years ago. So I thought it was appropriate to come before the board to find out if they want to continue this program or not, since there's a whole new set of members.
Any comments from the board? We'll start on the left, Mrs. Winslow. Snyder. Mr. Holmes. Mrs. Begley.
I think that the intern program has been quite successful, is my opinion, but I wonder if something like this couldn't be on the agenda so that we could, as a board, learn a little bit more about it, see how what's happened, where we are, and we would like to head in the future with that. So I'd like to see something like this be put on the agenda, Mr. Cruz.
That sounds like a good idea. We need to have everything with pertaining to the town come to us as a committee or on the agenda. So if you don't mind doing that, Mr. Slavin.
That's why I brought it
Okay,
up here.
thank you very much.
You want to schedule it and let me know then?
Just go ahead and write it up and get up with the office. And we'll
Will
put it
do.
on. Thank you. Since we have meetings every week for the next 2 months. I think there was another hand.
My name's Dave Willis, 13 on Hannah's Lane, Onset. This is not my first time here before you, but it's my first time here to give you a petition with over 600 names that reads, "We, the undersigned, find littering of our streets, parks, and beaches unacceptable. We are requesting that Wareham adopt a policy of zero tolerance for littering and that it be strictly enforced." So my understanding of the town charter is that we only need about 100 names to be heard as a quorum. And I've been coming, this is probably my 4th or 5th time. So I've got a little photojournalism to back up the petition. And ultimately what we need to do is form a committee called the Clean Streets, Parks, and Beaches Committee. We don't have Parks and Recreation anymore, so we need to, it's been so much neglect for so long regarding trash, litter, and so forth, littering on our beaches, inadequate equipment, that it's going to take a long time to fix all these problems. So I'm not saying we're going to fix it overnight, but I think the formation of a committee is the way to go. We need to reform collection times. We need to make sure that animal control has a full-time employee. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we have to make sure so that, and look at when their hours of operation are so that we can get the roadkills off the road in a timely fashion. All of this speaks to broken windows theory. Keeping the streets clean, picking up the litter in a timely fashion, emptying the barrels in a timely fashion. Because the way I look at this, folks, is the litter and the trash and the roadkill and everything, it's like the shark in Jaws. It threatens our economy. We have a seasonal economy that attracts tourism. If we can't keep our community clean and beautiful, why do they want to come here? It's also like, we used to have a crime problem that was a lot worse than it is now. So what did we do about it? We addressed it. And thanks to Chief Stanley and a lot more supervision, we don't have as much crime. So all I'm saying is, we didn't always used to have this problem with collection and inadequate barrels with no covers and litter on the streets, but it's time to address it. We didn't always have brick sidewalks and street lights, but we can improve, is what I'm saying. And I think it's time to form a committee to address all the things that may talk about resident permit parking only, to raise some revenue, to drive such a campaign. But what I am saying also is that I don't have all the answers. And I appreciate being invited to the leadership team by Mr. Andrews. And I appreciate all of your work, Mr. Andrews. But I do not believe that that's the be-all, end-all. It's the beginning. Like I said, it's taken a long time to get where we are. It's going to take a long time to get out of it. So I'd like to see a committee formed.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I would definitely support the idea of a committee, but it's my understanding that there's a process we have to follow in order to form a committee, so this may be a good agenda item for a deeper discussion by the board, and so the public can weigh in also. That would be my suggestion. I agree with you, Mr. Willis, that this is a big problem. And in fact, I was at a shopping plaza about a week and a half ago, and there was a pile of carts which clearly aren't used on a regular basis, and in those carts was just tons of trash. I mean, it was so old that it smelled standing near it, and I texted a picture of it to the town administrator, and I said, this is a shopping plaza. People are buying food here. It's kind of a turnoff, but they did clean that up. I was over there today, and I noticed that sometimes pointing it out to people does help, but it's an economic development issue. It's an environmental issue. It's a tourism issue. It's a lot of issues rolled into one. But most of all, when you walk into a store or you walk down the street or you walk on our beaches and you just see junk everywhere, it just makes people feel like it's not a cared about place. So
exactly. Value. It's all about placing value on our community and then restoring pride. And part of the monies that we need to go after, I'm hoping the green monies or any type of, we can get a curriculum back in the schools. I know when I grew up, it was pitch in.
Yeah.
Pitch in. So I don't know if there's something out there. So we don't want to just stop at getting a cover for the barrel. We want to get, educational tools as well.
And just so you know, I mean, I've been a little bit more cognizant of the problem, since you started bringing it to our attention. And as I go out of town to different places, it is a problem in this entire region. yesterday when we were at Fort Phoenix and we walked the hurricane barrier, looked down at the bottom of the rocks and there's rope and beer cans and nets and, you know, people just throw it off the boats into the ocean and eventually it comes up on the tide. And so, but I do think we can be a shining example of a clean community.
I mean, there's other communities. There's in recent events like the storm, Hurricane Irene. At what point do we look at going sustainable? Towns like Kingston have gone green, get federal monies. The town's almost all solar. They offer kickback programs to residents to go solar to become sustainable. So I mean, there's all kinds of things. Bourne's looking at going green, Barnstable. So I've been, you know, in contact with other towns to see how they do it. What do you got to do to get these solar-powered trash barrels? What do you got to do to, you know, get those monies? You have to do certain things, and then that may mean that people in the town, like you say, it has to go to agenda because they may not want to, because it may mean giving up that big SUV, and the next vehicle you buy for the town has to be economical and so forth. You see, so there's monies available, but then becoming, you know.
Okay, Mr. Snyder, you have anything?
I think from my standpoint, you know, certainly we understand that municipal maintenance has a tough job. We're limited resources, and you know, keeping our community clean and beautiful is an important part of economic development, and it's also an important part of our, you know, quality of life itself. I think that I would support a discussion by the board, future agenda item, to talk about exactly what the role of that committee might be, whether it be to, you know, enlist the aid of residents in cleanups. There's been several cleanups that have occurred throughout the year, widely publicized and successful, and I think the Harbor Masters cleanup was tremendously successful. And to try and, you know, research federal and state funding to help promote that cause and get people involved. I absolutely would support that as an agenda item for discussion.
How about we find some money from Walmart? They want to move.
Excuse me. Yeah. On this side, Mr. Holmes.
David, thank you again. I would again, as I did 2 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago, I'd really like to see this on the agenda and let David come in, and maybe 20 minutes was too much. Mr. Chairman, maybe we could give him 15 minutes to show us his presentation, because I got to tell you, I was with him in Onset this morning. The place was a pig pen, and that was at 8:30, 8:45. Yesterday, driving from Cumberland Farms, I guess that's West Wareham, to my home in Onset, Sean counted 4 roadkills, 2 skunks, and that just stunk. And you know, the question is, where is the animal control officer, and where have they been? I understand we have an issue with a full-timer, but they need to get out there and pick this stuff up, because, you know, you spend a nice afternoon in Onset on the beach, now you smell a skunk all day. And the place is a pig pen in the morning. And it's just, I understand maintenance is overburdened, but I think the formation of this committee might make sense to help out. But we really have an animal control issue on our roads. And when we talk about this as an agenda item, I'll tell you, I got kind of attacked a few weeks ago at a baseball game by an employee at the North Dartmouth Animal Control Facility because she found out I was from Wareham, and we don't have a very good rap there. So we need to get a full-time animal control officer on board and on duty to go and pick these things up, not phone call, leave a message, but an active person who's out there cleaning up this roadkill off our streets. It's awful.
Thank you.
So nice work, Dave. Keep up
Thank
the
you.
good work.
Thank
and
you.
Don't walk away.
Not now.
Mrs. Begley?
Hi.
Hi, how are
I
you?
don't think anybody's for litter, I hope. 20 years ago, when I first came to Onset, I was with the OBA, and we would all get together and pick up the litter. And I can remember we would all wear the same T-shirts, and people would come out of the store as they were dropping litter on the ground, saying, "It's about time you got here." Absolutely, does the town play a good part in resolving these issues? Yes. But there has to be some personal responsibility from the citizens of the town, too. The litter isn't putting itself there. And it's not always in the summer that we're seeing this litter. So I agree with you with education. I can remember that it was a huge topic for education in schools. I don't know if it still is. I know that a lot of studying solar or alternative sources of energy are in the schools, but it has to start, I think you're right, with litter. But there has to be some personal responsibility for it as well. So I don't know how we do that.
Well, that's why I've sent an email to the police chief and Mr. Andrews and the Board of Selectmen. I don't know if you're familiar with the broken windows theory. But that's where, yes, you've got a culture that may want to litter, but that's because the litter's already on the ground. If we can't keep a cover on the barrel, like Mr. Holmes was witness to this morning, and there's trash all around, so you get somebody walking by the barrel, the 50-50 chance it makes it to the barrel because they don't care enough to get it to the barrel, see? So that's part of it. But it's also what it says on the petition is that we treat littering and trash as a crime and that we create a zero tolerance and that it's strictly enforced. Okay? So that's what this speaks to. It speaks to enforcement because the litter that gets to the beach somehow ends up in the water. And now we have a conservation issue, which involves dirty diapers, food waste, plastic, and so forth. So, I mean, the reason why we need a committee is because it's all connected. And I really appreciate you guys listening tonight because this is the beginning. It's a conversation that we're not going to solve in 1 hour, a half hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's going to be a long time, and I'm committed.
Okay. Thank you very much. And if we add all your time together, we probably would have gave you 45
Right.
minutes for all you've been here.
Exactly.
But we are working on it. As you stated earlier, crime was a problem, and we worked on it, and we're getting it down to what it should be. Sometimes we would think it should be more, but we're working on it, and we're getting there. Same thing with the trash. You've been to the leadership committee. You made us aware of it, and we're working on it. For it to overturn in one night, I don't think it's going to happen. Years ago, the beaches used to be clean. Now it's reverting back to whatever it's getting at now. And roadkill, if you're going by it, any citizens, give someone a call and then see what happens. Put it on, document it. It'll be there, and then we can see what's the reaction time to having it removed. And this time of the year, for people who don't know about animals a lot, you're going to get a lot of road kills this time of year. It's getting to the fall. More animals are coming out to make way for hibernation, and you're going to get more of it. But if you're out there, give the appropriate department a call, and I think it'll be handled. Thank you very much, and we will work on your committee. You have whatever number, you have 600 names on there? I know you can get some people to get on your committee.
100's only required to be
Right,
considered
whatever
a
requires,
quorum.
you have enough for a committee. Why don't you get up with a committee and come back to the town, and we'll put you on the agenda.
That's what I'm here today for, sir.
Okay. So we're going
That's
to put
why
you
I
on the
brought the
agenda.
petition.
Come
All
to
right.
the office with the names of the people, and we'll... Right, okay, yeah.
Mr.
But he's
Chair?
got 600 names, so he should have suggestions, or we can put it out.
So come to the office, you'll give me a date.
Right, we're meeting every week from now on, so it shouldn't be a problem. If it's not next week, it'll probably be the week after.
Thank you very much.
Right, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, we have one more. Thank you.
Good evening, Mike Flaherty. I'll try to be brief. I was perusing the town website today, and I came across a section where the town administrator has a collection of videos for his reports, and I thought that was pretty informative. And I was wondering why couldn't we do something like that for the Board of Selectmen on the town website for the meetings?
You speak a little loud. I can't hear you. I'm losing.
Excuse me. I noticed that the town administrator has a section on the town website for videos of his report, his weekly report. And I was wondering, could we do something like that on the town website for the selectmen meetings?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any problem.
That would be great. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, thank you. We actually have an agenda item tonight, so I'll mention it then. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Next, discussion of Westfield. Anybody here from Westfield?
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask Bruce to step forward. There's a report in front of you this evening on Westfield. We did meet, through you, Mr. Chairman, on the 24th of August, and I felt we had a robust discussion about the RFP and having a set of clarifications that will be going out, along with, excuse my voice tonight, along with a increased timeline for a RFP submission date of Thursday, November 10th. That's a holiday week, I believe. So you have that update, and through you, Mr. Chairman, I could ask perhaps Bruce to give us a brief update as it relates to the meeting that we had.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, I would like to thank the board for extending our appointments to the end of the year. I'm sure that we're going to need all of that time to complete our task. My understanding is that over 100 emails were delivered, sent out under the procurement 30B system for invitations to bid. I understand we had one response, and what we discussed at the meeting was extending the time period for bidding. We received some information and some advice from the CETA director as far as modifying some of the language of the document, streamlining it, eliminating some redundancies in areas that he at least thought might dissuade some bidders. We had a brief discussion about the ball fields as far as redevelopment of the two existing and the development of the two new. The CETA director had recommended that we eliminate that, but the committee thought that that was within the body and the language of the warrant article, and we couldn't abandon that without having to go back to town meeting. And we were committed to it because it seemed to be a significant point of interest by town meeting and the community to maintain that. I had requested that we send letters, and I'm working with the CETA director currently to draft a letter to the 5 previous bid respondents individually, encouraging them to rebid and come to a meeting if that would be appropriate. We're not going to individually contact them. We didn't think that was our charge. We thought that was the Board of Selectmen's charge, but we are going to draft the letter and send it to those 5, and obviously extending the period to bid will be extremely helpful, since 30 days was just simply not enough time to respond. I think that's it, Mr. Town Administrator, unless I missed something.
You have covered it quite nicely, Mr. Chairman, through you. I have reached out to all 5 prospective bidders from the last round and have spoken to their staffs on behalf of the town, and some expressed some serious interest, and others said that they might just take a pass. But we'll have to see how that works. Mr. Chairman, I believe we have the requisite time frame now, and this is a very, as the report indicates, complex bid proposal, and it has a multitude of components to it. So as far as clarification and making that information available to the general public and these developers, we're making strides in that direction. I think you've covered it pretty well, Bruce.
The only last point is that we're going to need direction from the board as far as our charge, to what extent you want us to be involved in the actual evaluation of the bids that we receive and interaction, if any, with those bidders. This is, of course, legally under procurement law, the town administrator's charge, but it's also under the local initiative program, which is a DHCD requirement for state funding of this project. This is the Board of Selectmen's particular charge as well. So we sort of left that discussion open until the board had an opportunity to discuss it themselves and then so advise us. That's all I had.
Okay, we'll start on the right. Mrs. Begley, you have any questions?
No, I see here I have a memorandum that was dated, I believe, today, and the new deadline is Thursday, November 10th. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, Bruce. The original bidder. The bidder.
The 5?
No, on this part, we had one,
Oh, 1.
right? And then we extended the deadline.
Right.
Are they still holding his money?
I'm
Didn't he have to put up some money to bond to bid on the project?
No, it wasn't actually a...
Mr. Chairman, if I could, through you, this was a pre-bid conference where people were expressing and coming to get information. It was not the formal bid submission.
So we haven't received a formal bid?
No, just a pre-bid
All right.
conference.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't penalizing that guy by extending the deadline and tying up his money.
No, there's no money tied up. I will tell you that the 5 previous bidders expended some significant money in their bids, and will have to do so again, we hope. But there's no bonding at this point.
All right.
Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Savageau. Bruce, do you know whether or not has anything been done to get on the CHAPA's website to increase the bidding pool?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that where it originally went, the emails, or? Okay.
Yes, sorry, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. I took a water break. I apologize. Selectman Snyder hits it right on the head. We were trying to get this information out to various websites and places where we thought people would find it in a short period of time, which in that period of time, looking back, precluded us from putting something in newsprint, realtors, newspapers, or whatever, for prospective developers. So we did use a CHAPA site, and as Bruce has indicated, over 100 emails went out to try to stimulate and give information to prospective developers that might be interested in the project.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Bruce.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Winslow?
I don't have anything other than I didn't get a copy of that report.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Bruce. And I think that'll be a good idea. Maybe you get up with the town administrator and see what you guys can come up with, and then we'll discuss it amongst selectmen. Right on with the agenda, consent agenda.
Mr. English? John? They're up till next week. We have CDM bill. Contract 2, Project 3022. I make a motion that we pay. On Contract 2, Project number 3022.
Mr. Clerk, may I
In the
make
amount.
I'm going to hold you on this. I think on this bill was approved at our last meeting.
So why is it
And
back again?
I don't know why it was back, and I checked it today. I do have a copy of what we did last week.
All right.
I mean,
I thought that 716.
right, it was the exact one. You had approved it and I didn't second it.
No.
So we'll put this one
we had
aside,
some votes.
and
It works for me.
anyways, yep, I thought I was
I don't
seeing
have
things
it.
for a minute, but we'll put this one aside. We don't want to double pay anybody yet.
And we'll forego the minutes, so until next week, we didn't get a copy in the packet. So you're up to the town administrator's report.
Town administrators report.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, 1 second.
I have noted that. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, through you and the listening audience, I'd like to ask Chief Stanley to step forward for item B. But if I could, we're covering two meetings. I didn't get a chance to report at the previous meeting on August 23rd. The information pretty much clearly speaks for itself. I just want to reemphasize our working with the Remembrance 2011 Never Forget Committee. I'm sorry. I apologize for the voice again. I just want to underscore the Remembrance 2011 Never Forget Committee that's been working very closely with Chief Stanley and his team. We met with Rudy Santos at our leadership team meeting on August 17th. We had a very good discussion about the logistics. Clerk Holmes outlined the program. Just want to underscore that we do have Admiral Guerin, who is the president at Mass Maritime, to be the keynote speaker for that event. And then segueing once again from August 23rd, on Friday, August 11th, I convened an emergency management preparedness meeting at 10 a.m. at the Onset Fire Station with the fire chiefs, McDuffie and Anderson. All of the critical departments in town reviewed our critical incidents and special operations policy and procedures, which I've attached for your edification. This was a segue into getting to the update on Hurricane Irene. I just want to underscore once again the tremendous effort that all of the departments in town, volunteers, the fire services provided to us in getting prepared for this potentially devastating event, and ask Chief Stanley to come forward and give us his remarks as part of the leadership team update. Chief Stanley.
Good evening. First of all, I'd just like to thank certain individuals who I feel as though were really a tremendous part in what was a successful operation with Hurricane Irene. All of the public safety personnel were really out there and ready and willing and able to work cooperatively with our residents, elected officials, and appointed officials. I have the privilege of serving as the Town of Wareham's Emergency Management Director, but as all of us know in any leadership position, none of us can do it without the support of the people who we're working with. Dave Evans is my emergency management assistant, who is in charge of EMS for the town, and also Lieutenant John Walsek is also an assistant. But the Wareham Fire Department really shined throughout this ordeal under the direction of Chief McDuffie. In fact, we had an emergency operations center set up at the Wareham Police Department, and they never left our side. They were there 24/7 for a couple of days working this. Onset Fire Department, we also had a couple of meetings down there. Municipal maintenance was surely overtaxed, as they are on a daily basis, but especially during this. And with the help of the Wareham Fire Department cutting down trees and opening roads, the team effort was huge. Harbor Master reporting on surges from the water while this was going on, making sure that he had a watchful eye to make sure that people in low-lying areas were in fact not affected, and to give us fair warning. In fact, as reports were coming out from MEMA that we were possibly going to get hit with a major surge, Gary, our Harbor Master, Buckminster, with his training, knowledge, experience, and local knowledge, was able to look at things and forecast what was taking place on the water. And that is the kind of thing you just can't buy, the training experience he had out in the water. The Board of Health, Bob Ethier, the tremendous help he was in setting up one of Mark Andrews' brainchilds, the Hurricane Hotline, which took a tremendous amount of pressure off of the 911 center. Inspectional services, under the direction of Miles Burke, running the shelter we had available. Operation Division Commander Kevin Walsh for the work he did. in charge of the uniformed troops, and I must say that those guys, those men and women of the Wareham Police Department, were out there through it all in a proactive fashion, not hunkering down, and we even had people out there in ATVs with defibrillators and medical equipment in case any of our residents were in trouble, that they were available driving the beaches and driving low-lying areas and heavily damaged areas from tree limbs down in case they needed to get in to provide the proper medical services. And that was a voluntary deal. I told them, I said, I'm not going to order you to go out there in the ATVs, but they stood tall and said, no, we're in. We're out there because if something were to happen, we want to get out there to them. But the job done by John Walsek, Lieutenant, who is also the Assistant Emergency Management Director, he lived there day and night. He showed his true sense of worth to this community, stood tall, attended every meeting with MEMA, was in constant touch with our state officials, and I know that I could not have gone through it without his assistance. And last but not least, you, Mr. Andrews, for your support throughout this. And even though it was getting frustrating at times, and I think I heard from just about every one of you at the table about your frustrations over electrical issues, especially you, Mr. Chairman. I know you were getting the word to me on what seemed like an hourly basis through the administrator, but it was difficult on all of us, and it surely was an ordeal. We at the police department were out of power for a long time, but we had a generator backup, but my most frustrating point was in the fact that we lost power to a lot of those traffic lights. And I know I heard from you, Kara, regarding a couple of those situations. So I would venture to say that when I look at how we prepared through the preparation meetings, even before we heard of a hurricane, to the couple of meetings in advance of the hurricane hitting our area, I would say this is a tremendous opportunity for us to show what we were ready for. We prepared for a Hurricane 2 hitting our town, and we were ready. Now, I can surely state that things that we have worked on of late, such as our radio system, the radio transmission system of the police department, which was a major expense to this town at a recent town meeting, was worth its weight in gold because it never went down. It stood tall throughout that, and that wind, for those of you who live near the ocean, surely felt that wind coming off that ocean, and it was difficult. It was my first experience with that type of activity, and I think we were all very impressed with the power coming off that water. But I felt good. I felt as though we were ready. I felt as though all of our services, from the fire services to every municipal service, stood tall and worked together cooperatively through a great team effort. My frustrations, as all of yours, has in fact been with the power companies. I know I'm working with the town administrator currently with certain lists and so forth to make an issue of this, as many other cities and towns are, not just here in the southeast part of the state, but throughout the state. What they put up with was extremely difficult. There's no doubt about it. But the questions that are going to be asked are, you knew it was coming, and what were the preparations in place, locked and loaded, ready to go, when in fact some of the wind subsided. No one was looking for anyone to put a loved one up in a bucket truck with 80-mile-an-hour winds or 60-mile-an-hour winds. But we were looking for, as soon as it subsided, for a quick, effective, and immediate response. And some of that didn't happen. So we are ready. We are working on it. I have been directed by the administrator to get an after-action report together, a detailed after-action report, which we are working on. There will be a meeting shortly. And I can tell the residents of town that they should rest assured that we will, in fact, since it was a state of emergency, go after every dime available to make sure that this community is reimbursed to the fullest extent as allowed by law, with every department participating. So I'm open to any particular questions, but I think that pretty much covers it. I know you have a full agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Winslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, I want to thank you and your staff, Chief McDuffie, Chief Anderson. I was out and about a lot during that day, and a couple days after, and I tried very hard to stop every time I saw one of our municipal maintenance workers, officers, firefighters, and say thank you. They truly did an amazing job. The two issues with the power company that I had brought up was the critical care, the oxygen-dependent individuals. As you know, came to my attention that there was one in my neighborhood, and NSTAR didn't seem to have them prioritized. When I talked to NSTAR, they said that they were looking to turn on as many people as possible, and I know you said it was on your list. I just want to make sure. It's also my understanding that Toby had to admit several patients because they were oxygen dependent and they don't have generators. The one thing that I saw while walking around town, driving around town, was the whole concept of being a good neighbor. I saw people stopping and asking if people needed things on the way to the store. I know on my road alone we had about maybe 4 or 5 generators, and we hooked as many people in as we could. People really pulled together for this storm, and that was a wonderful thing to see. Everybody helped to take care of everybody else, and we really showed our best side of things. Not just the folks that work for us who leave their families in harm's way to be out to protect us and cut down the trees and put out a fire, God forbid it happens in a hurricane, or man traffic lights so there aren't any accidents and people don't get injured, but the community as a whole. So I just want to thank everybody for showing the best of the best through a difficult situation, and thank goodness it wasn't worse than what it was.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
Chief, I'm just curious, can you just tell me if we hadn't received that upgrade to the communication system, would we have experienced a lot more problems than what we actually did with respect to pulling the team together that worked on the emergency situations?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my biggest fears when I addressed the board when I first came to town was the critical nature of that radio system. And for a coastal community, it was very concerning to me. We were working off a 25-watt generator, a 25-watt repeater, which was foolishness. It was a toy. And now these officers could be secure in what they had. We now have a radio system in place that not only has the police department separate from EMS, Emergency Medical Services, but the reason we did that not only was to free airtime, but to also give us a redundant system so that if a system were to go down, like the EMS channel or the police channel, the other unit could join forces and hop on it again. In addition to that, it gives us free access to that extra channel during times of things like the Cape Verdean celebration and certain other large-scale events. The infrastructure is so strong now through the cooperation of the Onset and Wareham fire departments, joining forces, the expertise already out there by our vendor who works with these companies. So it was a good feeling to see some of that really come through.
That's great. Thank you, Chief, and thank you for all your hard work and the work of the fire departments and municipal maintenance and everyone else who worked to try and minimize the effects to the residents. It's truly appreciated.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Chief, obvious kudos to the town folks and the volunteers, but I guess we didn't have any power until Thursday, I guess. But I got to tell you, man, I'll be probably shot for this, but I'd like to give a real big kudo to the folks at the power company, because those men and women that were out there working, when these guys showed up, you could see that they hadn't slept. They weren't in a truck somewhere drinking coffee, not trying to service people. And these guys were tired. And my neighbor tried to tell them how to fix the problem. And you could tell just by the look on his face that he was trying to be as customer friendly as he could. But, you know, those guys work very hard. I've been here for several years, but I've never seen that many trees come down in a windstorm around here. Others have lived here a lot longer than I. And, you know, it took down those lines. And I know we were looking for, you know, street lights and pump stations, but we didn't have any power for several days. But when those guys showed up, we were pretty thankful to see them, and I know that they were doing their best, working around the clock to try to restore power to everybody as quickly as they could. Those companies have cut back on employees as well. You can kind of look at it like our maintenance department. They used to have 2 guys in a truck. Now you get 1, right?
Correct.
And you see
Valid
that.
point. Absolutely.
And now the fact that the CEO was on her honeymoon or her anniversary, I don't really think matters. But to the guys that were out there and the ladies working that line trying to get the power restored, I think we should give them a little shout out too. Great job. I don't have any complaints.
Mrs. Bagley?
Hate being the last to speak on something like this because so much has been said that should be said. Last year, we had a near miss with a hurricane. And I think just having that as kind of a dry run gave everybody, all of you prepared. And as we all know, in an emergency, I've been in emergency medicine for most of my career, that preparation is key. And all of the departments working together demonstrated that we were very well prepared without loss of life. I'm not sure that I heard of any storm-related injuries. There were live wires, trees coming down. My neighbor became quite ill at the height of the storm, but it did not affect the response time whatsoever for EMS. They were there immediately. So I just want to, again, thank the men and women of all the departments and the power company. I happen to know of a person that has really extensive medical needs, and we were not in this town, we're in a nearby town. But what really struck me was when we first lost power, that town's EMS came to the house to make sure that we were okay and to find out if there was anything that we needed. And it turned out that we needed fuel for the generator because this person's health needs are such that they need a powerful fuel generator. So again, everybody worked really, really well together, and it could have been a lot worse. Had that storm just been a little bit further east, it absolutely could have been worse. So we kind of dodged a bullet there. But as it was, we sustained a lot of damage, but everyone came together.
Thank you very much, Chief, and I want to thank you again and the team because we did, Kara was there also, myself, we did attend the emergency response meeting that you had at the Onset Fire Station. I was very impressed with the expertise sitting around the table, and we do have real competent people. Our hands are, like they say, you're in good hands. Well, we're in good hands. And Mark Andrews asked if I wanted to go out the day of the storm. I said, well, we got enough experts out there. You don't need one more. So you don't need me up there goofing up. You know what they say about too many cooks in the kitchen. So you did a good job, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Chief, thank you very much to you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I can go back to item number 1, I just wanted to update the board with regards to the screening committee for the town accountant. It consists of 5 members, John Foster, who I've asked to chair the committee, along with Selectwoman Begley, Selectwoman Winslow, Sam Gray from the Finance Committee, and Anna Miranda from the School Department. They had their first meeting to organize, and I believe they're working to set up interviews for the latter part of this week. The second item, and I'll keep you updated on this as we move forward, I have appointed Conrad Fernandez of Wareham as a laborer at the Water Pollution Control Facility. That concludes item A. Item C, I'd like to invite the board, those that can attend. Tomorrow's meeting will be centered upon a kickoff of Town Hall virtualization. This is, as the Chief has stated, was part of a capital outlay plan that we put forward, and we'll have a team at Visex, who is a Mass State certified vendor, will provide a presentation on the implementation plan to all the departments. I encourage you to attend. And if I can move down to on land donation status report, we will be receiving a letter that the individual that had indicated that they'd like to donate this piece of property will be not sending that request through, so I'm going to complete that process. Once again, we have been working on a number of safety issues in crosswalks across town, including at the Deacon's School. And lastly, working with the school department, 2+2, we've been working that on a day-to-day basis. And that concludes my report to the board this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. T.A. Going to town business, Mr. Clerk.
Do we get to ask a question on that report?
Yes, you can.
I have, Mr. Chairman, through you to the town administrator, it says here personnel update. Local building inspector, final interviews Thursday, August 18th. Do we hire a local building inspector yet?
Mr. Chairman, through you, I'm evaluating the last recommendations that have been made to me and checking background references, and I'll be bringing that recommendation forward to the board shortly.
Shortly as in next week?
Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, Steve, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that I gave up 4 days for these interviews, and I've sent emails in, and I'm kind of anxious to
Sure.
get on with a permanent building inspector.
Absolutely.
This is August 18th.
As you know, we have a qualified building inspector on site in the acting capacity.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, interim.
Just want to make that
Interim.
clear, right.
Looking for the permanent.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move right on. Town business, Mr. Clerk.
Who's going to speak on the distribution of a local option meal tax? Mr. Slavin?
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, we're not voting on the town meeting articles tonight, right?
No, all we're doing is discussing, and we'll
Okay.
vote on it at another meeting.
I just wanted to make sure
Right.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, there was no notification to the Capital Planning Committee for the meeting tonight. I just happened to be here.
Are you representing them on this article?
Well, as
On
the
the
chair-
distribution of the local meals tax?
As the chair, yes.
Okay.
The article as written is very self-explanatory. It's full. The description of the article is exactly what it says. The explanation is the same. It basically has to do with the fall town meeting last year, where we went ahead and did the optional excise, and there was basic feeling from the town meeting that they wanted to see it go toward capital expenses, and therefore it couldn't be done during town meeting because it would change the character and the intent of the original warrant article. So it required going forth and actually writing a separate warrant article for this particular meeting here, asking this particular thing to be done by what they call a special act, because you're taking tax revenue money and you're actually applying it to a particular purpose.
And so the gist of the article is to take that cost, take the 0.75 local meal excise tax that was approved last year, and take 50% of that money and use it for the town of Wareham, correct?
Correct.
And then 50% of that money would go to the Wareham School Department.
Correct.
Is that the gist of the article?
That's exactly it.
Any other questions from the board? Mrs. Begley? Mrs. Winslow?
I just have one question. I know this was discussed at one of the capital planning meetings. The wording in the article, Mr. Slavin, 50-50 can be a tough thing to achieve, and one of the things that someone had said was to try and make it as equitable as possible. So in other words, if you have a project that's $90,000 for the school and a project that's $100,000 for the town, that's not technically 50-50.
No, the idea of what it is, Kara, is if you get, say, $300,000, that's there. So the town basically would have $150,000 to apply wherever it wants in capital items. which the town administrator selects anyways, and also the $150,000 that goes to the school department, they can, again, the town administrator still takes care of that as well because we're not changing the system. What it is this is a supplement to the normal capital planning that we would do over a yearly basis. So if we put aside, or we have, say, $500,000, or we're going to borrow money, whatever, this money is in addition to what we normally do for capital. This is not the only capital that we're going to spend during the year.
Right, no, I understand that. I just, it's 50-50 equal each side.
It's the fairest way to do it, I think, without getting into, one side fighting the other side for, 10% here or there. It's just, it's black and white, and that works
Okay.
pretty easily.
No, just the last I had heard, we were going to try and,
It's impossible to do it without causing a problem.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Slavin. Mr. Slavin, I'm actually a little bit bewildered by this article. It seems counterproductive to me to start, having specific revenue streams identified for specific purposes within the town's budget. At that point, at that juncture, aren't we, in essence, overseeing the town administrator's budget? And why did we determine that 50% of the revenue would go to the school department and 50% of the revenue would go to the town?
Basically, we did the percentages based on, you have two separate entities. The easiest way to do it is to take it that way. The school budget represents almost half or a little more than half of the town budget anyways. So again, you have a number to work with. As far as the revenue stream, the town of Wareham doesn't have a great history in taking care of its infrastructure, doing capital replacement, etc. We're way behind schedule of what we've listed out. And if you look at the fall town meeting and what's being proposed, it's very little compared to the $1.8 million that was listed and recommended by the capital committee.
But in reality, Mr. Slavin, this article is really all unnecessary simply due to the fact that the town meeting has control over the entire budget at the end of the day, line by line.
Again, at the town meeting, there was the impression that they were trying to get that money assigned for capital items. And therefore, it could not be done at that particular town meeting because you can't change the intent of the article.
I understand. You're looking for a specific amount to be dedicated towards capital improvements, which can be done on town meeting floor. Thank you, Mr. Slavin. I appreciate your answers.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin. Is there any other questions from the board? If not, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Buckminster in the house. I'm just going I figured that'd be the easiest way to try to keep track. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening.
You have an article for transfer of funds on the Harbor Master.
Yes, I do. I've got there's multiple things that go into one article here. I'm looking for a transfer of funds from the Harbor Service Permit Reserve for Appropriations account to the Harbor Master Maintenance and Improvement account. One large item which I'm going to be requesting is that we replace one of our vehicles. One of the vehicle that Assistant McIntosh is using is rounding about 150,000 miles and showing a lot of wear and tear. It's still a useful truck, but for a frontline piece, I think it needs to be decommissioned at this point. So we're looking at something that's a little stronger. The new boat is extremely heavy. We're doing a lot of towing. We're a lot of legwork, so the truck, we're looking at diesel, we're looking at four-wheel drive. The other upgrades I'm looking at doing will be more navigational markers, as I did with the Weweanick. We did navigational aids all the way down the Weweanick to the bridge, trying to just help out some boaters getting through the areas. I want to focus on some other areas in town, Onset, Shell Point, East River, Buttermilk Bay. We're really trying to hit all these little nooks and crannies and try and help out the different areas that we have people moored in so they can get in and out safely, especially at night. And I want, even if you're familiar with an area, you just have that little extra sense of security for the people. We're going to be looking into doing, or I'm going to request to do 2 more docks at Bessie Park. Prior to Hurricane Bob, there were actually 5 sets of docks on one side. Hurricane Bob came through, I believe, from what I understand, is it damaged 2 of the docks. It never was replaced. We had 3 on one side, 3 on the other. This will add to the 3, and we'll end up with another 50 feet worth of docks, which was the original layout of Bessie Park, so we'll be gaining some more coverage there. And Jamie and I discussed about adding a kayak launch facility into the one of the floating docks nearest the wall, where it's a little shallower. We'll look into the railing system, some lighting, things like that. So we're trying to promote the kayaking, green boating also. Last, we'll be updating our communication system to step up with what the chief already has in place. I need to update some radios that are on our boats, some portables. I need to bring up our VHF portables also, which is the Marine band. Most of our calls come in through VHF radios, so we need to upgrade some of the radios. But I just want to make sure that everything is uniform with what the chief has in place, and it will, just keep our communications open. So.
Any question from the board? We'll start with Mrs. Begley.
Hi. Thanks so much for your hard work. I can't imagine what it was like to be out there. When I saw the boat, like, way up on Onset Beach, I was hoping I wasn't working when you guys finally got it down, but I was, unfortunately, so I didn't get to see that. I can't imagine what was involved. Gary, can you tell me, I guess what I'm looking for is, like, bottom line. How much are you talking about here?
Bottom line figure is on the second. I don't know if you have the second page.
That's what I'm looking
notes.
for.
The total request is $79,000.
Thank you. So the total request is for $79,000?
Correct.
So the total cost for those Bessie Park docks is much lower than I anticipated that it would be.
Well, we're building all the docks in-house, so we're eliminating the labor costs.
Oh, that definitely makes sense then, because when I did see that amount, and I was like, how is that even possible?
Yeah,
I thought that must be in
hardware,
each.
and it saves quite a bit.
All right, thank you very much. I've heard you discuss these issues at capital planning, and I think at the leadership meetings as well.
What's nice about this too is it's taking one item off of the capital planning, which, it's all the taxpayers putting their money into the capital planning items, where we're trying to focus on the money that's generated by the boaters to try and offset the cost of this. So a person that doesn't really have any affiliation with the waters, they're not really being held accountable for what we need. So
I understand. Thank you.
Gives another department some other money to be able to do what they have to do.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Snyder?
Just one question, Mr. Cruz, through you to Mr. Buckminster. Gary, is the vehicle purchase, is that lease or is it a purchase?
It will be a purchase,
It will
because
be a
we keep
purchase.
our stuff long term. If you look at our vehicles, we try to do what we can to make sure they're the top condition. So it's a long term purchase.
Okay.
So
And was that the advice of the capital planning committee?
I'm not sure how long a lease runs for what we need it. I mean, we have trucks we have one truck that's a 1998, and we still have it running, and it's pristine. So it's a long-term operation with them.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow?
Hi, gentlemen.
How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you both very much. I know I had the privilege of running into Mr. Buckminster the night of the hurricane at high tide. It was quite the sight to see. Gary, can you tell me, the $79,000 is in the Harbor Service permit reserved for appropriation account?
Yes, it is.
Do you know what the balance is in that account?
As of to date, we still have permits coming, and we have about 152,000.
So there's 152,000, and you're only looking to take 79,000.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
By the way, 150,000 is not a lot. 259 on the expedition.
Gary, thank you very much, and I'm glad to see you're doing something with the kayaks, because we do have a wonderful town with the coastline that we have, and we can make Wareham one of the recreation capitals of the Cape, because we're not on the Cape, we're at the beginning of the Cape, like they say, the gateway, and between the bike path and all the other activities we have for recreation, I think we can make this one of the best recreation areas in the
Yeah, it's
in the
very
state.
important. We're just trying to pick away a little at a time here. So
Step at a-
Just in 1 second, I would like to just thank the police chief also for his kind words. Everybody really did work well together. We were cutting trees. The fire department was helping us. The police department was out. We were all as a team. So it was a good response for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And a step at a time, we'll get where we need to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative from the Clean Water Committee.
Thank you.
Is that the same thing I have right here? Okay. Okay.
Good. I need to go.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eddie Pasevich, and I'm the chairman of the Clean Water Committee. With me I have Barry Cosgrove, a member of the committee, and also seating in the audience Dave Begley, who's a member, and Joe Leggett, who's also a member. This proposed bylaw maintains most of the original bylaw that we have, with some exceptions. And the purpose of this bylaw, as you see at the end of it, is to clearly define earth removal. We've had some problems in the past about what earth removal meant. And this bylaw clearly defines earth removal based on Massachusetts general laws, which is Chapter 40, Section 21. It's Item 17. That specifically applies to earth removal. The proposed bylaw would prohibit earth removal in Zone 2. Zone 2 is the recharge area for our aquifer. And if you want, I'll show you Zone 2.
Mr. Chair, through you, can you give us a landmark, a road? I see Route 25. Okay, thank you.
Right through along here, right? As a matter of fact, this one road is like that Zone 2, or the recharge area, is scientifically identified as an area where the aquifer is being recharged. By that I mean rainwater is actually going through the ground and entering the aquifer in that particular area that's identified. Now, the idea why the committee wanted to restrict earth removal in that area is because the sand that's on top, as the water passes through it, cleans the water as it gets into the aquifer. And if you start taking away the sand, you're taking away the mechanism that cleans the water that's entering the aquifer. So that's why we're talking about restricting or prohibiting earth removal in Zone 2. And let me be very clear on what earth removal is. You see a definition that we added here. And this again is right from the law. Stripping, digging, or excavating earth from any lot not in public use, and removing, that's the key, removing or carrying the earth away from said lot. Now, earth removal has nothing to do with agriculture, and agriculture has got nothing to do with earth removal. Go ahead, you want to ask a question about that? Because I know that's going to be a big issue.
Mr. Chair.
Or you want to wait? Okay. First of all, if you notice in the actual law where they provide exemptions, there is no agricultural exemption for earth removal in item 17. Secondly, what agricultural activity would be involved in earth removal? Anybody give me an example? Any example?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I remember in Carver, on some private land, I just drove by there Monday again, where they removed, oh God, acres and acres of sand that they used like on bogs, and it was private property, and the owner didn't even want them to take the sand, but they did anyway.
But it's got nothing to do with agriculture, the removal of the sand.
Well, no, but I think they used that. They used that sand on bogs. It was taken for the
So they're selling it.
Of the bog. Well, no, actually, they took it.
How could they take it?
That's Carver, not Wareham.
Okay.
Don't get nervous.
Specifically, we've been through this.
It was a very difficult time. I remember when it happened about 10 years ago, and they just finished now, where they were allowed to continue to take that sand, and it took out quite a big chunk of land.
If there was an agricultural exemption, it would be part of the general law that I gave out to you, and it's not. It's not an identified exemption. Second of all, as I said to you before, identify an agricultural activity that's involved in earth removal. The key is not digging. The key is the removal, taking the earth off the property. So there's no activity that's involved in agriculture that would involve removing the earth from the property. Okay? So we've eliminated the agricultural exemption that existed in the original bylaw, and we limited the depth which they could go down. So earth removal can be anywhere else other than in Zone 2, and currently they can go within 5 feet of the high water table. We're limiting it to 10 feet of the high water table, specifically so you would have an additional 5 feet for the water to pass through to protect the groundwater. That's fairly simple, and it wouldn't interfere in anybody's activity. And the last item was that we're treating everybody the same on this right now. Everybody is treated the same as provided for under the general law, which was not the case in our original bylaw. And we think that this is a bylaw that's going to help protect our drinking water in the future. And that's just that. A yes vote will, in fact, protect our drinking water and our aquifer in the future. Any questions?
Any question from the board? Mrs. Winslow, start on that end.
I actually have a lot of questions, but how will this impact? I'm pretty sure that we just renewed an earth removal permit for somebody off of Glen Charlie, did we not? Graziano?
There is one up there.
Can't remember the name. Yeah, I see the trucks all the time going down Glen Charlie, and I just curse every time I get behind one. How would you anticipate this would impact?
If you look at next to the last item, any and all existing earth removal activities located in Zone 2 shall cease all earth removal activities within 30 days of the effective date of this bylaw. Restoration of the earth removal activities shall be completed within 1 year of the effective date of this bylaw. It will terminate all earth removal in Zone 2. And that's what we want to do. We want to protect our drinking water.
Well, I understand the purpose of that, but has Mr. Chair, do we have any opinion from, because that permit was issued, couldn't have even been a year ago, that they came before us looking for us to renew that. I'd have to look back at my agendas, but do we know how that will impact us from a legal standpoint with that one particular business off of Glen Charlie? So we probably need to check into that.
If I may, their permit was granted under the old bylaw for earth removal. Bylaws changed. There's no grandfathering in a general bylaw, so they would have to abide by it within 30 days.
I'm just concerned that the 5 people that sat here granted them something, and they came before us, and there was some concerns. I'd have to pull out my my notes from that meeting, but I don't want to open the town up to a lawsuit because some business owner says that they've got damages now.
I don't see that'll happen, but obviously town council will be reviewing this before it hits. But I don't see a problem with it at all.
Yeah, can we make sure that town council gives us some idea of that permit that's out there in that off Glen Charlie?
Okay, yeah, that'll be a fine suggestion. Like, this is their first stop, so from here on, we get discussions from all the board, and then we can know which way to proceed. Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Pasevich. Mr. Pasevich, really what this boils down to in a nutshell is protecting our drinking water by keeping the earth that's on the existing property in that area, correct?
That's correct.
And the only people that this would affect are people that are taking soil from that area and selling it for profit and depositing it in another location, another town, somewhere else.
That's correct.
And our water sources at this point, that's the predominant water source for our area, and our population is growing.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Pasevich.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes? Mrs. Begley?
Is that the only area in town that anyone has an earth removal permit? I don't know, because I wasn't on the board that granted the permit.
Okay, there's 2, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There's 2 earth removal operations going on, one off of Glen Charlie Road, and another one that was not permitted, but it was exempted because it was supposedly agricultural, which resulted in 400,000 cubic yards of sand being removed out of Zone 2. That's what we're trying to prevent from happening again.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
I think Mrs. Are you? Okay, Mr. Snyder, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this is about, from my standpoint, our clean water coming to us with a recommendation to preserve our water supply, our drinking water supply. And from my standpoint, I would think that, it would want to go to town meeting to have it voted upon prior to getting a legal opinion from town council of any other issues that are of any permitting issues that are current, or any permits that are currently issued, because it's town meeting. It's not for us to determine that. It's for us to determine whether or not it should go before town meeting and let the town decide. Notwithstanding what permits are currently issued, those matters would get addressed later on down the line if the bylaw was approved.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, two things. First of all, through you, this is our warrant, the Board of Selectmen's warrant, and it's incumbent upon us to ensure that what we put before town meeting is not only legal and enforceable, but that we're not going to open the community up to litigation or other costly endeavors. I'm all for clean drinking water. I live out there. I live in Zone 2. We drink the water that comes out of our tap. I want it to be clean. But I also want to make sure that we go about this the right way. And I noticed that, this was one of my other questions, Mr. Chair, has the Zoning Board of Appeals or the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, any of these other boards had a look at this proposed bylaw? Are they on board with it? The ZBA would end up being the enforcer of this rule, correct?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we have a meeting with the Planning Board scheduled. We also have a meeting with both water districts scheduled to discuss this particular bylaw. The Zoning Board of Appeals, we don't think would be involved in this because this is a straight permit deal with the Board of Selectmen. Once you're dealing with a bylaw that's implemented, they have to come to you to get a permit. So you, in fact, are controlling it. So those are the future meetings we've already got scheduled. And we have those scheduled with those three specific areas.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, just so I'm clear, I believe my understanding of the process is that, first of all, Town Council will look at this through the process before it goes to town meeting to make sure that it's, at least in its legal form, it's okay. And then if town meeting approves it, then it will go to the Attorney General for approval because it's a bylaw. What I'm suggesting is I don't feel that it's necessary for Town Council necessarily to review something that is going to get reviewed just to be put on the, we don't need a legal opinion on it, I guess is what I'm suggesting until it's voted on.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, through you, the Attorney General's responsibility is to ensure that the bylaw does not interfere with any Massachusetts or federal laws, regulations, or constitutional rights. The Attorney General has zero obligation to ensure that the town of Wareham isn't open to any liability. It is incumbent upon us to make sure that the bylaw is crafted in such a way that it avoids any costly litigation in the future, especially considering the fact that it terminates an existing permit.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Ms. Winslow. Ms. Winslow, if that were the case, we would need a legal opinion on every single article that came before the town.
No, that's not true. We don't, every single article that comes before the town does not terminate an existing permit that somebody operates a business under.
Mm-hmm.
We're essentially shutting down this operation with this bylaw. Well, we can do it for the most noble cause in the world. That doesn't change the fact that we have an existing permit, and we have to find out how to go about a bylaw such as this in the appropriate manner. Or we're going to end up paying that guy's, salary and the salary of his employees for who knows how long. I just think that we need to, this is what we pay town council for. He needs to take a look at this and give us some guidance on how to go forward with this to protect the interests of the community.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to respond to that, that's why I provided you with the Mass General laws. The Mass General laws provide the town with the discretion to do whatever they want to do with regards to earth removal, whether you want to shut it off completely or designate certain areas that you prohibit it in. But if you look at that law in that section, which gives us, the town, the authority to establish earth removal bylaws, it provides you also with the authority to handle it any way you want. And that's why I gave it to you.
Okay, so now what you're saying on this earth removal, you can answer one question for me. That area of town is one of the fastest growing areas for residential houses. How is that going to affect earth removal for that in them areas?
They're all exempt. If you look at the law and the bylaw, anything that's got a permit, anything that's permitted by the town is exempt from the earth removal bylaw.
Even if they go below the, even if they go below the 10?
Yeah, it doesn't apply. If you look at the exemptions that are granted, and that's specifically in Section 4, that's right out of the Mass General Law, and that's what the Mass General Law provides for exemptions. So it shall not apply, which is subject to a permit or license issued under the authority of the town of Wareham. That would take care of all your building. Is exempt by state law. See, these are some of the things that the original bylaw didn't have in it, and what we're trying to do is to bring this up to date with the Mass General laws. That exemption is specifically provided for in the Mass General laws.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other questions from the board? If not, like you said, this is the first step in their warrant articles coming before us. It has been presented, so we can do whatever step. We'll be voting on it in a few weeks from now. So, other than that, thank you very much, Mr. Pacheco.
Thank you.
Do we have the representative back from the CPC? No, I didn't skip it. Is it not under the? I have it over here. Oh, under capital. Nan, can you hold? Just sit there 1 second. Yeah, capital planning. Alan, are you addressing the library issue?
No, that's Mike.
Mike? Come on. Yeah.
So do you want CPC?
No, you can sit right there for 1 second.
No, I think they got.
No, Mike,
Yeah.
the chairs.
Sorry, Nan.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Speak right into it now.
If I can find it.
Good evening. Can you hear me? All right. Yes, we're here tonight to discuss the article for repairs to the Wareham Free Library. I am Mike Flaherty, the chair of the Wareham Free Library Board of Trustees. We also have our vice chair here, Martha Strahan, and Kate Furler on the building committee. Excuse me. Do you have the article in front of you?
Which number is it, Mr. Flaherty?
It didn't have a number. It was actually, I submitted the article, but it was kind of pulled. It was the way it was explained to me. It was pulled and put as
Is this the 30,000?
No, it should be for 50,000. Is that correct, Mark?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it's embodied
right.
in Article Number 1, Capital Improvement Program for the town.
Okay.
Article Number 1.
Article number 1.
That says 30.
That, if I could, Mr. Chairman, through you, 1A, if I could just explain this. Originally, the number was given to us at 30,000, and then it was moved up to 50,000 to include some labor and other types of capital improvements that the library would like to see happen. Is that correct?
Partially. The trustees met in August to discuss this, and we settled on a figure of 50,000. I submitted the article, and I got a call back from the library director saying that, I forget the name of the person she spoke to, but she said that there was already a line item for 30,000, and then they referred to our article and bumped it up to 50.
That's correct.
Up to 50,000.
Up to 50,000.
Up to.
Up to 50,000. No, it's definitely up to 50,000, but that we're requesting. Again, basically, this is to address the integrity and security of the building. There's numerous items that have gone that are in need of repair, and it's getting to the point where if this doesn't get addressed soon, this is just for external items such as windows and windows and doors and such, that if they're not addressed, then we could have problems on the interior. We whittled this list down. There's a whole bunch of other items we could have brought up on the interior, but this is what we thought 50,000 was a reasonable amount to request at this time.
Any
What you
questions
see
from
on
board?
the
go ahead.
illustration,
Yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
on the illustration, if you look, the east is the front door, and you can see as you go around, the door on the southwest side is basically rotted and needs to be replaced, the whole door. Then as you continue on the south side, that's where the children's library is. We have two triangle windows that the bottom of them are just rotted right. They're rotted there. Continuing on, the back door to the children's library also must be replaced. It's falling apart. The window outside of the stone room, these are there are three, I don't know how to say the word, there are three windows that are rectangular underneath the big triangle window, and those are falling apart. On the north side, you have the bottom windows again are damaged on both the north and the east side. These are the major things that we're concerned about. And we had the municipal maintenance people go and walk around with us. And then we had the Morse lumber people go and walk around with us and showing us what are the things that really must be taken care of.
In addition to the building itself, I mean, there's also that's the integrity of the building we're talking about, but there's also a security issue where we're looking to put a fence in. I know the director's been trying to get that done, and we thought we'd specifically mention that as well. It's a small fence to stop some of the foot traffic of some of the people that are cutting through and such. There's light posts. There's big light posts in the parking lot that are bent and knocked over from people backing into them, stuff like that.
And we need motion sensor lights, and we need to have the devices that are internal that turn on the lights periodically at night. Those need to be replaced. So we have all of those kinds of issues.
And your final figure was the 50,000 that you're asking for?
Up to 50,000.
50,000. Okay, questions from the board. We'll start with Mrs. Begley.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. I have a couple questions and observations. Questions with all the rot. Is this a result of water? I mean, is there any kind of, gutter system or anything in the building that moves the water away from the building?
Some of it is rot. They're just old windows, and they're wood. But to use in the gutters, some of the gutters are in disrepair. I mean, they're broken in places, and the downspouts aren't connected to things. And to use the municipal maintenance phrase, it's kind of a maintenance nightmare. Because of the design of the building. It's not built for utility. It's not a square brick building with a flat rubber roof. It's a beautiful peaked building with every 45-degree angle is an issue. So that's part of it.
The other observation is the parking lot was full, as it frequently is, which is kind of nice. I had to go around to the north side to park. And what surprised me was the vandalism and the graffiti that I saw in that part of the building. I mean, it looks like people tried to pry the trim off around the windows.
Absolutely, and that's part of the security we're talking about in this, in the lighting and security cameras. This all needs to be addressed.
Now, is there any possibility just down the road with having any kind of, like, Votech or someone else getting involved with any of these projects, getting on the list?
That would probably be a question for municipal maintenance. It's our understanding that we come up with this list of what we think is priorities, and then municipal maintenance will farm it out, or where appropriate, or the Parks and Grounds will farm it out where appropriate, or the IT department will farm it out where appropriate. But, I mean, it wouldn't be up to us to say, yeah, we want the vote kids to work on this.
No, I understand that, but that might be, I mean, I don't know, because we certainly, there's probably union issues, et cetera, but
It sounds like a great idea.
I know. If we can have volunteers or someone, absolutely, and I agree, because I've seen it kind of falling apart bit by bit, and just like anything, if we don't pay attention to it now, it's going to be worse down the road.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I was elected chair in June, and out of nowhere, everyone started calling me and saying, "Listen, the building's getting really shabby. We need to do something about it." And so I started looking into it, and coincidentally, Ms. Furlow was also very interested in it, and she beat me to it and came up with just about everything you see here.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Holmes.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Mike, where is this $50,000 going to come from?
I included it in the original article I sent. You don't have an itemized list? And it's a very rough estimate, but, I mean, with the hurricane and, trying to get back to people with estimates was kind of challenging, but there will be firmer estimates by the time it gets to the FinCom.
Morse Lumber is putting together a better estimate. We had to come up with guesstimates with them about what each of those windows would cost to replace.
I can give you my copy if you like.
No, my question is, where is the money coming from?
Oh, that might be a better question for the town administrator.
Mr. Chairman, this is the proposed capital improvement program through you to Selectman Holmes that we're putting forward that we will fund once the authorizations are made to us. And I just wanted to make one point on, I know you recently elected chairman, Mike, but we do need to project out the prevailing wage, so we use Chapter 149 for that. So I can work with Kate to make sure, and Derek, that we have the right numbers to make the up to number work.
Yes.
But this is part of our capital improvement program for the current year, and if not available funds are available, as the article says, to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer, we'll put them in the fiscal 2013 capital plan.
And just to be clear, because the trustees, when we met, we were very adamant about this. I need to understand where this all fits as far as planning and such goes. I mean, there's one thing. I understand the library's been looking to get a lot of things done, and they get backburned, and we end up like this. And I want to make sure that whatever gets approved, if it gets approved, that it's set in stone, that we're going to get this money and it's going to go toward the library. And is that the process we're following right now? Is that what you just discussed?
That is correct, but once again, as the article reads, to vote to raise and appropriate, borrow or transfer from available funds, and the key is to make sure that we have those available funds, and we should have that set sometime later on in the fall.
Oh, okay, and just for clarification, that was from the template, and I did speak with that the town moderator put forth, and I did ask her. She mentioned to me that I need to get to you to say which form that's going to be. How are we going to do that? Is it going to be borrowing? Is it going to be transferring and such? And you're saying what exactly?
We're gonna see what we have on hand at the end of the fiscal year for certified free cash. Will happen later on this fall, and if not, it will be placed in a capital improvement plan for the next year's budget. So once we have the authorization to go forward, we'll fund it at that time in the budget, if need be, and that's where we're coming from. And a number of these items, I might add, correct me if I'm wrong, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, this just didn't happen yesterday. I think people just need to understand that out there, that the items that we've been trying to get through municipal maintenance were perhaps a patch, but we tried our best. You need a fence, you need some work internally, you need some upkeep and I should say replacement of windows that had seen the better days. So it's part of the capital improvement process to make certain that we can stay up with deferred maintenance, and that's what I would call this. It's been deferred for a long time, and now we're getting to it.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, moving forward from here, will town meeting voters have the opportunity to vote for $50,000 to go directly to the library?
Yes, that's what it's here. That's why it's here.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the town administrator and to Mr. Flaherty, I certainly concur that we need to keep the library structurally sound and the envelope secure. But my understanding, I understand coming to town meeting for the $50,000, but I also understand there to be a legal settlement agreement in place that has several $100,000 worth of funds available for use for purposes such as this. Am I not correct in that?
Mr. Administrator?
You are correct. However, we will use whichever form of dollars we can get to the library, and if that's the quickest route, we'll use that route, Selectman Snyder.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, through you, could I get as much information as possible about the funds that Mr. Schneider just discussed?
Sure thing.
Yeah, it's news to me. Thank you.
It's a matter of record through Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mrs. Winslow?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you all because I'm really happy to see that the building is going to get some much needed attention, and there's a lot of books and other things within that building, and we don't really think about it in terms of water creeping in through doors and windows, but we could face a devastating loss if we allow those things to go untended. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We appreciate your support.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
love the library.
Okay, hold on a
if
second.
Mrs.
Any other
Winslow,
questions? Mr.
if
Holmes?
Mrs. Winslow is through, now I guess I'm totally confused. I don't get it. If there's money available now, the town administrator is talking about maybe if there's money available now, and we have doors that are rotten and windows that are falling out, let's give them the money now. What's the problem?
Mr.
Why
Chairman.
why are we? This is going to get put off if it goes through this process.
Mr. Chairman.
Wait, excuse me. Are you finished yours? You have the
Yeah, I defer to Mr. Schneider if he has the answer.
Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Holmes, I believe that there is a settlement agreement between the Wareham Library Foundation and the town, which the town administrator does not necessarily have purview over, but certainly the library folks could request grant money through them because there are funds designated by the courts to be used specifically for the Wareham Free Library unless another library is approved by the town.
How much is in there, Mike? Do you know? Do you know what it was?
It was roughly $200,000 the last time I knew.
And you're looking for 30 to 50. If I was a recommendation, I'd grab it from there. Do it now.
Well,
because if there's not enough free cash, and we don't know that.
Yeah, no, it's the first I'm hearing of it. So.
Yeah, if there's not enough free cash, you're not going to get this 30 to 50. And if the money's available now, grab it now and fix the rotten doors now. That would.
Well, Mike.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Right.
But
I was going to say, Mike, let them give you the information you need.
Yes.
And then your board of trustees can go from there. And,
you can always knock this off if you don't need it.
And the article still may have to go in, just to cover us.
Yes.
So let's work on both avenues if it's all right with the board.
Mr. Chairman, through
Yes,
you,
Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Town Administrator, could you provide us, the board, with a copy of that settlement agreement?
Absolutely, through Mr. Chairman, through Selectman Snyder. And I just want to go back to Selectman Holmes' point. It wasn't that we were waiting on this. This is the first time I've ever seen a capital request from the library. And we asked for all the department heads. We've been working on this all this spring to get our capital improvement plan through the administration and to the capital planning committee with updated numbers. That's why I asked the question earlier, Mr. Chairman, about this will be a publicly bid process, so you have to use the prevailing wage. So once again, we can get into this at another time, but let me just finish. This is the first capital request I've had from the library. So whatever is the quickest route to get the dollars funneled through. I know the foundation has made smaller types of grants for books and other types of learning equipment and reading materials, but this would be a big step forward to Selectman Holmes' point that now we're investing in the building, something that has been used for many years, not only by library patrons and Wareham citizens, but also by the foundation. So it would be a great step forward to get that money offline, almost similar to the Harbor Master's point earlier tonight, if I can make that reference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I might be getting mixed up between the right terminology and capital plans and budgets and such. Yes, I know this is the first time we're going this route, but I know that the library director in our meetings has said, like you said, you meet with your directors and such, and they have this great plan that they'd love to see done, and those items are like a nice wish list, but there's no real money, dedicated to it, so it gets put off, and you get to it when you get to it. It's different than what we're doing now. I agree, but it's my understanding that certain items were requested, and economy being what it is, you do what you can. But that's why we're trying to get this set in stone, that we get something finite, definitely. And if we get it through the settlement, great, all the better. But it's a priority.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Who controls that money? Where is it? Is it in our bank? Then it's not our money, it's the foundation's money.
Can you expound?
I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. The foundation has an amount of money that's dedicated to the Wareham Free Library as part of a court settlement. But it's not the money that's in the hands of the trustees.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I understand. So it's not the trustees don't have control over that money.
The trustees were allotted $50,000 that
Yes.
as part of that settlement.
Okay.
Out of that, we have now distributed almost 30,000 of that to the functioning of the library.
And I suppose I should ask, I mean, you've been on the board longer than I have. Do you know anything about the $180,000?
What I know is that the foundation is in charge of that, and they have decided among themselves to only spend 10% of the capital, or the per year. But I don't think that's part of what the settlement said. I think that's something that they decided. What I'd like to know is, how do we access that money, if that's the way we should be going?
That's my question.
Mr. Chairman, how about if the trustees meet with the foundation and put this plan before them? I would suggest that to you. And then we can keep this, as the chairman has indicated, up to, in the warrant, it's just authorization. If we need it, we use it. If not, then some other venue would work relative to improvements of the building.
I'd like to do what you said and continue with this, as Plan B, I suppose. But I do want every detail I can get on whatever Mr. Schneider brought up. You said it's a matter of record, so I'd like to see that.
We'll get copies out to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from the board? So, Mike, as we all suggested, we'll do it both ways.
Yes.
That way we're covered.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for all your hard work.
And we'll get the building taken care of.
Nice try.
That's the goal.
I'm sorry, what?
Let's pray you get one or the other.
Yeah, you want to get one or the other.
You get one or the other. You're not getting both.
And as Mr. Holmes pointed out when I was up here earlier on the citizens' participation, the Library Board of Trustees does have 3 openings. We've had 3 openings since June, and I've got 0 applications. So please, I mean, we need all the help we can get. It's tough to meet and have a quorum, frankly, especially in the summer. Hopefully that'll be better. But please, if anyone's interested in helping out on the trustees, put your application in. We'd definitely appreciate it.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty, could you just kind of expound on what the responsibilities would be, so for anyone that may think it's too much of a time commitment, or just...
Well, the trustees meet, or we try to meet the third Thursday of the month. The new hours are from 6 to 8. It used to be 5:30 till whenever. Now it's 6 to 8. It involves attending those meetings and being involved in them, and basically trying to support the director in what she's trying to do, and give feedback to her. And such, and listening to the community, and working with the friends and the foundation. It's all an integrated part.
We are an advisory board, however, we're not a governing board, so it's not that we're setting policy, but that we're trying to support the director and what she wants to get done.
So it's optional but encouraged to participate, say, in fundraising or events that are held at the library.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things we're trying to push more. I mean, for example, the nonprofit groups, the Friends and the Foundation, do the bulk of the fundraising. They put on the mini golf and the book sales and such, and we're trying to, as trustees, be more involved in that and maybe help out, with them, and show the support both ways.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, she's right there.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Angie. Okay.
Mr. Clerk.
What? Oh, all right. Nice try, Walter. Okay, if you wouldn't mind identifying yourself for the record and discussing your article.
All right, well, I'd like to, Nancy Miller, CPC. It is with great pleasure that I get to introduce Angela Dunham as the new chairman of CPC. So Angela is going to discuss the articles. I'm just going to sit here.
Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you. First of all,
Just get right up close, please.
thank you. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who attended the recent CPC workshop. It was a wonderful opportunity for the community to learn more about CPC and its benefits to our community. And I thank you all for attending, those who came. We have 5 articles before us. The first 3 are actually housekeeping articles. I'm going to turn it over to Sandy Slavin, our treasurer. And Sandy?
Thank you. Our first article is the housekeeping, in which we are to put 10% aside to reserves that we haven't used already, and a total of 5% for our admin. And so the first article is to put 10% of $70,200 for the affordable housing reserve, since we had no expenditures in that this year, and a balance of $5,100 to bring us to the total 5% set aside for administration. The balance of the unused FY 2012 budgeted reserves is $240,149. That's what is available to us for our estimated revenue, and that we have not used between the fall and the spring town meeting. The second article is to return $55,000 to the Affordable Housing Reserve. These are 2 projects that have been completed, and there's a balance remaining, and the second project for $50,000 has been returned to us because the Agawam Village reconstruction project did not continue, and therefore that money set aside for assistance with the plan is being returned. The third article is the payment of our debt liability for both the Bryant Farm and the Tremont Nail. That's $7,423 for the Bryant Farm, $104,128 debt payment for the Tremont Nail. These are just consistent articles that we do every year, except for the returning of the money.
May I ask a question about one of those, Mr. Cruz?
Go ahead, Mr. Baker. Mrs. Baker.
The reconstruction, so this one was to hire a consultant. This doesn't have anything to do with the doors and all that stuff that they were doing.
No, this was to hire a consultant from the spring 2010 town meeting, and that consultant was no longer used. They wanted to do a plan to submit a grant request to the state.
Yes.
And they wanted the $50,000. We've been told they will not be doing that, and we're returning the funds.
So this is unrelated to the 5-year plan, that some kind of 5-year capital plan. Okay, it's unrelated.
I can't speak
and
to that.
They're just giving you $50,000 back.
They're just returning what had been approved.
Right. So this was unrelated to, what was it, like $50,000 for the doors or something? Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Since I just had Mr. Holmes.
No, I would just say that, just one comment. The recent plan, quote-unquote, plan out at Agawam was performed by the state as a result of a meeting that we had, Mr. Andrews, with Senator Pacheco, Representative Gifford. Remember that meeting? And they sent the team down to go out to Agawam and go through. Remember the windows and the doors and all that
Yes.
stuff at the time?
Yes.
And that's where that came from. That 50,000 was put aside, I believe, for I forget his name now, and then he doesn't do business with the town anymore.
No,
So
he
we
spent
never used that money. He never did that plan.
Well, initially, CPC was going to help Agawam Village come up with the plans necessary for the project. And Mr. Heaton, was that his name?
Yeah, Dick Heaton.
He was going to help. It
Right.
wasn't that he was going to be the one hired for that, but as it turns out, CETA has stepped up, and they are doing a fabulous job. Now, the CPC funds, the 50,000, didn't quite cover all the doors. I believe there were 94 doors, and we were short about 18,000, but they came up with the additional money so that we didn't have to go back and ask for more. So,
Mr. Snyder? Mrs. Winslow?
Thank you very much.
We
Thank you very
have
much.
Go ahead.
Article 4. Right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Article 4
Article 7.
addresses the restoration of Memorial Town Hall. The 2 rubber roofs were not included in the original roofing project, and this preservation project seeks to protect the building from further water damage. It will just address those 2 rubber roofs that need to be attended to.
It says here 2 rubber roofs in the painting of all exterior wood surfaces at Memorial Town Hall.
As well.
Is that right?
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Cruz,
Any question from the board? Mr. Begley?
we've kind of had this conversation before, and I think we brought it up at the general meeting that you just had, which was wonderful, by the way.
Thank you.
Do we know if there's lead paint? I mean, that I'm sure, given the age of the building, it's not just going to be a matter of painting and, of course it protects, we have to protect that building. It's the original town hall. It's got historic significance, and I believe it is part of the historic district. However, it may not be as simple as just painting, because is there going to be anyone that's going to determine whether or not that's lead paint?
I wasn't going to talk tonight. If there are lead paint issues, they will be identified and dealt with. That's all I can say at this point. The building has been painted within the last 35 years.
But it's peeling right down to the wood.
It is peeling. It is peeling. But the paint that has been used on the building previously was not lead paint. So if there is any lead paint, we might get a little on the interior of the windows, but I think those are stained. So
my concern, though, Nan, is that there's so much of it that's peeling and it's down to the wood that it's probably lifting the lead paint. But I guess my concern is 163, if it turns out to be lead paint and that lead paint has to be removed, that's not going to touch it.
very honestly, well, no, that's not necessarily true, because I was able to come up with some folks that were helping over at Old Town Hall, and it really wasn't that expensive. But if we have to come back because of lead issues, we will. We're not anticipating anything more than the 163,000. And I was saying to Angela, I do have to apologize. The rubber roofs were part of the original request for the re-roofing of the town hall, and we all completely missed it on the RFP, and so it didn't get done. and that's why we're coming back with that, but it coincides with the need to preserve the exterior of the building.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Mr. Snyder? Mrs. Winslow?
Article,
Angela?
Article 5, this Community Preservation Act permits local committees to transfer sums of money into established trust funds that meet the requirements of the Community Preservation Law. The Conservation Fund has been established since spring of 1963. It'll allow Conservation Commission to respond rapidly to issues that qualify under the Community Preservation Act. And again, Sandy, being our conservation person, can probably answer questions you have regarding this fund.
You want to
But
expound
it
on it
has been
first, or you want
established.
questions?
I mean, the fund exists today, and I understand there's about 30,000 in that fund. This is to add an additional 50,000. The 50,000 coming from CPC must be used appropriately as CPC requires it. It can't be used for maintenance. It can't be using for trails for existing lands and stuff like that. There is a very specific list of what can be done with that 50,000, but it will allow Conservation Commission to react and to work on if lands become available. And you need a quick turnaround, such as something coming out of agriculture or things like that. But whatever would be done would be with approval of the Conservation Commission and CPC and the Board of Selectmen. It wouldn't be just spent willy-nilly.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Begley?
That was part of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Cruz. That was part of the meeting, and that was very informative, having the list of, and being told exactly about acquiring, creating, preserving, etc. I guess the 50,000, my thought about that with the conservation, as you said, as lands come available and that kind of thing, $50,000 or even $80,000 if it was a total of 80 isn't very much money.
It's a start. It's a start.
So I don't understand how it would be used, I guess.
May not be used right away.
Because $80,000 to acquire land is...
No, but it is a beginning. I mean, here's a possibility. There could very well be some projects that have been approved that will not be used. Maybe those funds come back from land purchases and be placed in this fund. We don't know yet. All it is a starting point. So we didn't want to use all our money and place it in there, but it was the beginning. Because we didn't want to deplete the CPC funds, because we know that there's some future requests coming down the line that we didn't want to spend every penny we had. So we only started with 50,000.
So this fund exists now or doesn't exist? It exists, but has very little money in it.
It has 30,000 in it.
So this is the Wareham Conservation Fund, and
Yes.
you're going to bring it up to 80 with the hopes that sums of money could be put into that fund.
In the future, yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank you.
it's just like 60,000 was given to the Affordable Housing Trust. It hasn't been used immediately, but it is available should something come up. All it is being, instead of having to wait for the town meeting twice a year, something comes up, it can be reacted to. That's all.
So who is responsible for the disbursement of these funds out of the Wareham Conservation Fund?
It would be the Conservation Commission and the Board of Selectmen.
Along with
The
CPC.
bylaw includes the Board of Selectmen with the Conservation Commission for any approval of expenditure from that fund.
Okay, so if the fund, a couple years down the road, we've got $200,000-$300,000, talk about an optimist, huh? In that fund, and then there was a property that these committees wanted to consider,
Right.
then you would come to the Board of Selectmen, and it would be a mutual decision to disperse those funds.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Snyder? Mr. Winslow?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Chief?
Thank you.
Sorry, bud. You're not driving all the way back, are you? Oh, good. I don't feel as guilty now. I felt guilty there for a minute. Next we have the chief's Policies and procedures dated August, the packet's dated August 30th. The chief is looking to have the board approve this packet. I believe it's within 30 days, right, chief?
That's correct, and
August-
they're just standard procedure
August
as we've done in the
30th.
past.
Date of issue was August 17th. I would make a motion to approve the packet as submitted.
Second for discussion.
Motion made and second for discussion.
I just have one question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. Wilson.
It's on the animal control policy. And I only asked this question because we had a situation with a rabid animal in my neighborhood several years ago. It says in the policy that the animal control officer is not a sworn police officer, it's a civilian employee, correct?
Correct.
And that they don't carry a service weapon.
Correct.
Is that a change?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, the old animal control officer, when we had one, did in fact carry a weapon. And there's an awful lot of liability that goes with that, and a lot of maintenance as far as training requirements and so forth, psychological testing, all sorts of issues. And for the very few times that an animal control officer would need to use something like that, there's plenty of backup available.
The only concern I have is that, and now are all our officers going to be trained in how to appropriately euthanize an animal with a service weapon? And I'm just going to tell you why. Because we had a rabid raccoon, there were kids standing at a bus stop maybe 40, 50 feet away. The raccoon had attacked a dog in the neighborhood. 2 officers responded. It was early in the morning, like 7:30. They shot at the animal several times with kids not too far away, unable to kill it, I guess, and they had to wait, like literally holding the thing for the animal control officer to get there and, finally issue the... So I just want to make sure that I never want to see anything like that happen again.
How long ago was that?
Well, let me think. That, what is it, 2011? Probably 2007, maybe 2008.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen now. It's a little different situation, so I won't even get into details about that. The animal control officer will be a certified animal control officer by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, not just somebody running around who's been blessed and given an animal control officer badge. He will be certified by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He will know where to euthanize. He will, in fact, when that time comes, which is extremely rare, will advise an officer where to do what he has to do by a trained officer. I don't think you will ever find those kind of situations happening again. Thank you, though.
Mr. Snyder?
Approve the policies as written.
Chief, do you need me to be specific?
Excuse me?
Do you need me to be specific on that motion?
No, I think as long as you say what's included, just say
included in
those
the
included,
packet from
9
us.
procedures and so forth.
In regards to your letter of August 30th.
That's fine.
Okay, any more discussion? If not,
Well, we can't vote on them individually. We're just going to do them as a...
Just do them as a packet was the motion.
He doesn't need them individually.
That's fine as is. Refer to that letter, and that's fine.
Yeah.
okay, Mr. Clerk. Motion made. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0.
And Mr. Chairman, just so you know, we are well on the way, and it is my hope that I will be able to come into you sometime in late November, early December, and tell you that we will be, in fact, accredited at a meeting before the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Committee in January. So we're well on the way. We almost made it for September, but it looks like I can pretty much guarantee we'll be ready to roll for January, which will put us in the top 33 departments in the state.
Right, and when you do, let us all know, because we went to the first one. I'm excited to go to this next one, so
Appreciate
keep us
it.
informed.
Thank you.
That's not on the agenda.
Chief,
Thanks,
can you-
Chief. That's not up yet. That list is, we're not doing the entire warrant.
No, just-
The only ones we have are those that they gave us.
Yeah,
That's not
just on the agenda.
It's on other
It's
town,
not on the agenda.
it's on
So
other
we all
town
set?
business.
The chief? We just have to do the liquor license.
We're going to do the liquor license and that.
This isn't on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
It's not on the agenda.
These other articles. Huh?
The other one's not on the agenda neither, Mr. Clerk.
I have to.
And we're going to do a 8.1
We have a 1-day liquor application here from the name of the license. Donna Martin, are you here? Is there a Donna Martin here? Mountain. I'm sorry. Don't mind my Portuguese reading. It's for a 1-day golf outing dinner, Saturday, September 10th, which is this week.
That's correct.
Is this from 12 noon to 9 p.m.?
12 o'clock is their registration, 1 o'clock is their tea time, and they come in around 6:30 at dinner time, and they're usually done between 8:30 and 9. And it's about 90 people.
This is for an all-alcoholic beverages license. Who is doing this?
The regular New England bar service that's been doing all of them since the end of June.
So I assume this is... I'm sorry, I don't know if everybody got a copy of this. Did y'all get a copy of this?
No, that was only
That's
in
why
my
I'm
package,
asking
right.
questions, because I don't think
right.
y'all did. I'm just trying to get the permit out. And this is at the pavilion, I assume?
That's correct.
And it's for a nonprofit?
Yes, it is.
Do you know why this wasn't included in the original group?
I'm not sure. I think there was some miscommunication, and maybe most of those were just the beer and wine. This was for the full, and the gentleman was supposed to come in and do that, but I think he was under the impression that it was being done by the bar service.
Okay.
So we came down to the wire on Friday afternoon, and then we had to get it in this morning for Saturday.
I'd make a motion that we approve a 1-day all-alcoholic license for the 26 Bay Point Drive on Saturday, September the 10th, for a nonprofit group from the hours of 12 noon to 9 p.m. under Chapter 138 Mass General Law.
Second.
Motion made in second. Discussion. Hearing none. Take a vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
4-0.
Thank you.
I
Good luck,
abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Mountain.
I abstain.
Oh,
I abstain from this
you
one.
abstain? Okay, 3. Get that correct. 3. Mike abstain.
3-0. 3-1. 3-0.
3-0-1.
3-0.
Now, any other town business, we'll go to Article number 1.
Who's going to speak to Article 1?
Mr. Chairman, I'll introduce it. I want the police chief to come forward, and Derek, if you'd be so kind. The Article number 1 speaks to, as we indicated earlier, to fund certain capital improvements. These items are not new to the town. They were in the fiscal 2012. Much of them were in the fiscal 2012 budget request that I put forward. And we decided to wait in the springtime for the fall for authorization of certain items. And Chief, if I could ask you to start with item B and just go down from the defibrillators down. We are looking for 40 defibrillators, and you have been working very hard, correct me if I'm wrong, to standardize the defibs that we have not only at the police department but with EMS and Wareham and Onset Fire. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've worked with the EMS department as well as with the fire departments to standardize these. I have gone to EMS and basically let Mr. Evans decide on which model was best for us to use, because we have a couple options available. We went with this. It fits the stuff. It fits the equipment he is using to make it a quicker transition from police to ambulance. And we need 40. That gives us enough for all of our vehicles, both marked and unmarked, as well as specialty type vehicles when they do in fact go out in service. And most importantly, one on the station in case I take the big one. So I've just got to get somebody to use it on me. But that gives us a full complement, and we're ready to move forward with that and have like I said, the blessing of EMS as well as the fire departments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could move on, then perhaps the board can ask questions. Item C, generator for the police department. Could you explain that, Chief? And
Yes,
the
that's-
wonderful time we had during Hurricane Irene?
Right, that's a fairly new item since the hurricane. One thing that took place, in fact, if you go to the rear of the rear of the police station currently, you'll notice a large generator, wheel generator, out there connected to our building, which is a loaner from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fire Services. During the course of the hurricane, the generator could not keep up with the load of the equipment in the police station. Let's face it, generator for that station was built not to include all sorts of computers and electronic equipment and so forth. The load wasn't enough, and we were running into problems. We brought in an additional generator under an emergency with the state. MEMA was there immediately, was a tremendous help to us, and hooked us up. There were some mechanical problems with that generator that came out. The cost to fix it and repair it was not worth it when you looked at what load it would carry for the building with all our communication equipment and so forth. And it was suggested to go with the new unit. That unit is extremely old and very tired. And the best case scenario to replace the unit that's in there to fit in the space allotted, which would give us the additional power, is approximately the price that I have on there.
Thank you, Chief. If I could, Mr. Chairman, continue. Item D is a parking program, and we've talked about this for some time with respect to really maximizing the spaces that we have at our beaches, and this includes a surveillance that has recently been done by the Municipal Maintenance Department, but working with the Chief over this past summer. We know automation can help us in a number of ways, and if you could elaborate on that, Chief, for us, please.
Right, and I'm sure that there'll be a presentation eventually here before the board to give you a complete presentation by the experts, but we brought in some people to look at the parking at the beaches, and we found out that we can, in fact, our revenue increases would be dramatically increased, while at the same time not really affecting individuals, because what it would do is it would give us, the ability to have these powered meters, solar-powered meters put in blocks. It's not individual meters, they're blocks, large areas. You find them in most resort communities. The increase in revenue, because people would go in on a regular basis and not have to have just an attendant there. It would be to keep those meters going. We've got a whole program that would take a whole presentation to show you exactly what it is, but it would get rid of the whole volunteer program down there and the gates and so forth.
Thank you, Chief, and we will have that presentation working with Chairman Cruz very shortly, because we did look at some of the space up above, particularly in the C.W. Bishop lot area, in terms of maximizing the potential for revenue through a parking program that once again we'll bring forward. Item E, prisoner transport vehicle. Can you expound upon that, please?
The prisoner transport vehicle we have right now is antiquated at best. It's rotting away, body rot and so forth, mechanical difficulties. The problem is that we can only use that to transport one type of prisoner at a time. That one type of prisoner is either males, females, or juveniles. They come in three categories. If, in fact, we to modernize that vehicle, one transport could take care of all three types of prisoners, keeps more officers on the street, as well as getting rid of an antiquated vehicle that we have right now. That particular vehicle especially is going to be a major nuisance for us if, in fact, and I hope this does not happen, but if, in fact, they shut down the Wareham District Court and assign us Plymouth. If there isn't another appropriation on the part of the state to take care of that problem, the havoc that that's going to wreak on my department from a court cost standpoint will be astronomical. So we are fighting that tooth and nail. But it's time to upgrade that vehicle, and it is an emergency. The vehicle is in tough shape, and it's labor intensive to keep all these police officers going, transporting multiple types of prisoners at a time.
Chief, where are you going to get a vehicle for $5,200?
What a deal, huh? No, that, and I'd leave that to the
Derek?
financial people to tell you.
Do it, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
$5,220. Is that correct?
That would be based off the first 6 months of that would have been a 5-year lease. We probably will increase that to go to a 3-year lease, and that increase would probably bring it up to about $9,700. So essentially starting, let's say, January 1st, that's when the lease would start on that.
So you're looking to lease a vehicle.
Correct, capital lease.
$5,200 the first year, and then where do we get the
It would have-
$9,000 after that?
It would have actually been, it was $5,200 for the first 6 months.
Right.
So that would have been off of, let's say, a 5-year lease. I'm thinking 3-year would be a better option. So the first 6 months of that would be more in line into the 9,000 area.
The cost of the vehicle, though, Mr. Holmes, is approximately $50,000. We've got it priced out approximately $50,000.
That's what I was thinking.
Mr. Chairman, Chief, can you tell us about the four-wheel drive vehicle you're requesting once again on a half-year program?
Right, and that would be a second supervisory vehicle to replace one of the other four-wheel drives. We have 3 four-wheel drive frontline vehicles. One of them is a newer model. This would be a second marked unit for sergeants and supervisors and so forth who run general patrol 24/7. It's in very difficult shape, the one we have right now. So we have 3 of them. We replaced one. This would be the second primary frontline vehicle to be replaced.
And the last item, Mr. Chairman, working month upon month, and there are certainly a number of options that we have available to us, but I am recommending that we look at leasing through a program for 7 buses, beginning once again with authorization, hopefully a town meeting, to start to replenish, if you will, the aging buses that we have. Braintree recently did this. We're using that model. And what it does do is it ramps up the cost. That cost would be included in our annual debt service in the budget that I would present to the Board of Selectmen. You got to start someplace. So I'm starting with 7. The most recent report that I read from school superintendent was that we had 20 buses that were in the realm of replacement. I'm suggesting that we start with 7 at this point, take a look and see what we can do in the spring. And once again, 7 buses, Derek, at what, $15,000?
$15,000, yes.
Okay. To start out, and that's the recommended plan, once again, for capital improvements for the fall, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any question from the board?
I was confirming the 15,000 for the
15
for the first year of
6
the.
months.
That one would actually be I think that would be a full 12-month lease because we would want to get that one started right away.
5 years.
That would be 3 years as well, I believe, on that one. So we're speaking to the school, to Dr. Rabinovich there, to put out a bid based off whether, with the caveat on there that it's subject to fall town meeting, so we can get the most up-to-date information. But this was based off the bid that they put out last time, was approximately $15,000 per vehicle.
And subsequent years would be budgeted out of the school department?
That's
out of the town's debt service.
The police chief's department for years 2 and 3?
No.
Where does years 2 and 3 come from?
It would be out of the town's debt service.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, just for the further clarification on this point, Derek has spent a large amount of time with the treasurer collector, John Foster, and we have looked at the ways to get once again, staying on what we had as a public safety theme. You're not going to see an ambulance on this list because we are working very hard to get that through a form of mitigation the town is working on as we speak. And if that does not work out, we will add the ambulance. But at this particular time, I'm not recommending that. I'm recommending that we have in our debt service for years 2 and 3, the included amount in the town administrator's budget to cover the cost of the 2nd and 3rd year leasing program for the buses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other question, Mr. Bigley? Snyder. Mr. Winslow.
Mr. Chair, I suppose this is more of a statement than a question, but I understand the leasing of the police vehicles. We go through them; they run 24/7. That I get. So this isn't directed at you, Chief, but I'm getting really nervous about all the leases and the borrowing that we're doing. Do we have any numbers? I mean, this is going to become an issue, I'm sure, at town meeting, because we've got money out there on every year we add on to this debt service. It's less money that we can put towards other things. And I understand that we need new school buses, and I'm not suggesting that kids should ride around in unsafe school buses, but I kind of said a few months ago that I really felt that this was what was going to happen. We were going to be backed into a corner and forced to lease buses, and I really don't think that this issue has been fully explored. And it's 7 now, and it could be 7 in the spring, and then 7 in the fall, and we've got deteriorating vehicles at the police station. We've got deteriorating vehicles at municipal maintenance. We have a whole fleet of vehicles sitting out in town hall that are going to need to be replaced in the next year and a half. And I'm just really concerned that we're leveraging our future on all these leases.
Well, Mrs. Winslow, I think quite a few months ago we talked about that. It's been 15 years in the making. It's all on our laps now, so we have to do something now, because even the capital planning, they're working and they know the position where we're in. Money is tight. But this has been biting at our heels for 15 years, and we put it off. Now it's on our lap, and we need to do something about it. This is the town of Wareham. If we're going to move forward, we need to take the investment. It's just like on your own home. You have to bite the bullet and sacrifice somewhere and make it work. It has to work.
So is this, I guess my question is this the decision that's been reached between the town administrator and the superintendent of schools that we're going to replace our fleet with leased buses?
I think they've been working on that too together with the town and the school department. Mr. Town Administrator, you want to elaborate?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I'd like to. First of all, the foundation going forward is that we have been working closely with the Treasurer Collector. I said that earlier, to monitor our debt service, so going forward we could satisfy what I consider public safety items. And I know you do too, and individuals on the board.
I just have a quick question. Is this the town administrator's article, or is this the capital planning committee's article? Because I'm hearing the town administrator being questioned, when I think these questions are more directly appropriated to the capital planning committee. I think there are a couple of members here. Maybe we could ask them to come up.
Well, I believe, Mr. Chair, that the capital planning committee makes recommendations to the town administrator, who determines what to put into the budget. That's my understanding of the charter, but...
Okay, Mr. Town Administrator.
It has been, through you, Mr. Chairman, a very long and arduous process, and we talked about this for over the past year and a half. You've got to start someplace, and working with the Treasurer Collector, with recommendations from capital planning, unless I'm missing something, and talking with the superintendent about the best possible plan. I did talk with Dr. Rabinovich, and I know the capital planning committee has engaged the school district and superintendent on this matter. This is a plan going forward. We need to start someplace. It's not something that you're going to get in one capital improvement budget plan. It's going to be a series of capital improvement budget plans that we intend to put forward. And if you can see how all of these items, A through G, are linked from a public safety standpoint, I think people will understand them, that they're at the top of the list for not only the capital planning committee. I'm not going to speak for them. They can speak for themselves. But to Selectman Schneider's point, this has been talked about, and we need to start someplace. And I'm suggesting, along with the superintendent, I won't speak for him either, that this is the best starting point that we have in time.
Mr. Chair, through you to
Yes.
Mr. Andrews, the question isn't about the issue. I understand the issue of safety, and I understand the logic and wisdom behind leasing a police vehicle that runs 24/7. My question is, late last year you put the school buses out on a reverse auction. Now we're putting the lease of 7 school buses on the capital plan. have you, along with Dr. Rabinovich, made a decision to keep the busing in-house? And do we have a plan, once we allocate the money to lease these 7 buses, to replace the rest of the fleet on an ongoing basis? I understand that this problem sits in our lap from many. I get all those points. My question is simply, are we keeping the busing in-house, or are we leasing 7 buses? Are we asking town meeting to lease 7 buses, and we'll look at this another day? We have to go to town meeting with a coherent plan.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, it is a coherent plan because we've been looking at this for quite some time.
Okay, then what is it? Are we keeping it in-house?
The plan is that had already been decided pretty much, because if we recall, on the reverse auction, we got 1 bidder. And you can't do a reverse auction with 1 bidder. So from a competitive standpoint, and by the way, they're leased to purchase. You know, at the end of the 3-year period, we will purchase, I believe it's $1 for the actual outright purchase of it. It is giving us the ability to get 7 within. And by the way, once you order them, there's a series, and I'll defer to other select folks, but there's an amount of time that takes in order to get them set up to go, if you will, for school. So we're really looking at mid-year to try to get these into the fleet. 7 new buses, lease to purchase. At the end of the period of time, we would obviously have to evaluate the equipment, make a determination as to what we're going to do with it. That's the plan. That's what's been suggested and recommended in working with the superintendent to get the first phase of this going this fall for authorization, and then being able to put those buses into the fleet as soon as we can. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, Mr. Chair, just to make sure I completely understand this, the school bus program has been completely evaluated and vetted by yourself and Dr. Rabinovich, the school committee, and it's been determined that we're going to keep the program in-house.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
And
Thank
let
you.
me just say, in terms of vetting, we're doing the financial analysis, what's required on the buses for equipment, and how that would go forward. I'm relying on the superintendent of schools. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board?
Just one question, Mr. Cruz. I think that given that we have so many questions about some of these capital expenditures or hopeful expenditures, and given that there's probably a plan in place, I'd respectfully request that we have capital planning on the soonest agenda.
I don't know if someone from capital planning want to step forward. If not, we can. Mr.
I'd like to make one correction. At the end of 3 years on the Braintree program, you're not going to buy a bus for $1. The buses are $85,000. At the end of 3 years, we're only paying $45,000 in lease. I believe the Braintree deal was something like $50,000 at the end of 3. You had an option to go for another 3 years if you wanted to. And at that point in time, you may have been a very small dollar amount. Just want to make one correction. As far as the capital items here, we gave a list to the town. We spoke to everybody probably for at least the last 8 or 9 months about what we recommended going forward for capital planning. And as everybody understands, we only make the recommendation. We don't actually pick what, choose what's going to happen. That's the town administrator's, purview. It's not ours. As far as items A through G, we have not seen any of this until now. So for us to come up here and talk about it is completely out of place. Our committee has not met to review this. We'll be doing this Thursday. So anything on this list that you have here, I can't really talk about.
Like we mentioned earlier, this is their first step in bringing it to us, and we're not voting on it tonight. So these questions are preview to the audience listening, so they can make up their mind when it comes up to town meeting.
I just don't want to give you information one-sided, that's all.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
To follow up on Mrs. Begley's question, are you going to ask the chairman to come next week and give us their presentation?
Mr. Slavin, you available for next week? Okay, so we'll put you on the agenda for next week. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk.
Are you going to take any other business out of order, Mr. Chairman?
It is an order, Mr. Clerk. It's any other town business, and that was other town business came in the last minute.
I only said that. I'm not trying to be
I'm
mean.
just saying that the same way you said yours.
I'm just saying that all the others were on the list, and that wasn't.
Right, and these two were at the last minute. so
We're
we
up to
couldn't-
sewer business.
Go ahead, sewer business. Well, we do have a meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So if you want to attend, feel welcome to, because they may have a question on what transpired earlier on their thing, because I was taken back by that. But other than
Then
that,
you're up to liaison reports.
liaison report, we'll start with Mr. Winslow.
Just two things. The first is that the Capital Planning Committee is meeting Thursday at 9 a.m. They usually meet in the conference room on the third floor. However, they are subject to being moved around due to space, so just keep looking. I think that it would be great for the public to start attending these meetings because there are a lot of big ticket items and a lot of things that they're looking at, and it would be great to have the public, participate. As Mr. Flaherty mentioned earlier, we do have 3 openings on the Library Board of Trustees. There's been a lot of problems for those folks getting quorums recently, so if anybody is interested, I know somebody had mentioned to me over the weekend that they had an interest and were going to submit an application and would be attending this month's meeting, so I think that's good. But even if that person does that and gets appointed, then we still have 2 openings, so we really do need people to come out. The library is a great thing to be involved in. It is in fact, well, unless you consider emergency services, the only service the town offers that provides a service from infancy to, 150 years old. Is something there for the library. That's all, Mr. Cruz.
Snyder.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Holmes. Mrs. Bagley.
Yes, the Board of Health is meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. They continue their discussions regarding the nitrogen regulations, and I believe that they are, part of their discussion will be when to post it for a public hearing, and there has to be a 2-week notice.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
And I have one other thing, Mr. Cruz. I'm wondering if this board would consider making a motion that all boards, committees, and commissions have at least an audio recording of their meetings.
Sounds like it's a good step. I
Mr.
think we
Chair.
have a recorder somewhere that can be transferable around, so. Can we look at that, Mr. Town Administrator?
We can, Mr. Chairman. I know
Yeah, we have something.
we have recorders in the office, and we can make them available to the committees.
Yes, there's recorders in the office. They could be made available. There aren't too many meetings that I believe that go concurrently. There are some evenings that there may be 1 or 2 at the same time, but I think it would be a good step.
Sounds like a good step.
So shall I put that in the form of a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Is it a motion?
I move that all boards, committees, and commissions have an audio recording of their meetings as soon as possible. So, what's today, the 6th? By the September 12th. That's only a week. Is that enough time to give people
Well, I know we have one.
notification, or should it be a 2-week notification?
Oh, 2 weeks might be better. I know we have one.
Okay. So then I move that all boards, committees, commissions have at least an audio recording effective on September 20th of 2011.
What was that date in? September?
20th. That's 2 weeks from today.
Okay, so we'll inform all the boards, Mr. TA, on
Yep.
Do I have a
on
second?
that.
Thank you.
And the recording will be at the office.
Oh.
Right. Second? Was there a second? Oh, okay, Steve.
Mr. Chair, are we going to supply these recorders to all these boards and committees?
Well, the recorders will be in the office, and the chairman or the clerk can pick it up and the tapes will be there, and then they can turn it back in.
So we're going to ask the chairman or the clerk of every committee to stop in the office prior to a meeting, and then...
That's why the notice is going out to all committee chairmen.
Well, we haven't even voted on it yet.
We haven't, but as soon as we do, the notice will go out to all chairmen and clerks that they will be recording from now on.
I don't know. I think we need to really think about that. I mean, we should at least get some feedback from the committees and find out who's already recording meetings, because...
Then if they're already recording, there's no problem.
But we may have people who are serving in these positions that they're volunteers, and now we're adding something new to their plate and asking them to do one more thing. I mean, I think we should at least reach out to them before we... What's the rush?
I think in the interest of transparency, there shouldn't be any kind of issue.
Okay,
Well,
motion was made and second. Any more discussion?
Well, yeah, I think that if we're going to require people to record them, then the town should purchase for every board and commission a tape recorder and supply it to them.
Well, we'll look at both options and we'll see what the...
And I also think this should be an agenda item. I don't think that we at the final hour, 4 minutes before 10, should be making motions and acting on business that wasn't on the agenda, and that committees and boards had no opportunity to come before us during citizens' participation to address.
I don't think it'll be addressed during citizen participation.
Well, we gave no notice to the public or our boards or committees that we would be discussing and acting on this item tonight.
Any other discussion? Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I would recommend that we put this item on the agenda for the next meeting and take a vote at that time.
It was suggested in discussion. Any other discussions? Motion made. All in favor? Motion law. Okay. Discussion is over. We need a motion. A motion was made. We're taking a vote. All in favor of and record meeting. All in favor? 3?
No. No.
Okay, that's 2 no's. Is that what you're doing?
No.
Okay, it's 4. 4-1-0. So all will be recorded, and it'll be on 9/20. It'll start. Notice will go out to all chairmen, and then they can iron out whatever problem they need to get the recording. If we need more, we'll get them. If not, we'll work with what we have. I think it'll be good because I'm not saying anything, but there's a lot of people in the town hall quite often, so I think if we have enough recorders, it wouldn't be that hard to purchase one. With that, I have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I also believe we may have just violated the open meeting law. Motion to adjourn.
Motion made. Excuse me, motion made to adjourn. Motion made to adjourn. Second, all in favor? All opposed? 5-0-0. Thank you very much.